Chapter 1922. Let's fight again? The heaven god and the human god stared at Yi Fei in astonishment. They did not expect Yi Fei to make such a crazy request instead of killing them after defeating them. As long as they were not convinced, they could fight Yi Fei countless times. Yes, we are not convinced. We are earthly highnesses, the strongest existences in this world. How many years have we cultivated? How many years have you cultivated? Don't even think about defeating us, the heaven god said furiously. He had not lost yet. As he rose to his feet, he charged at Yi Fei. Fight! The human god stared at his severed arm. His hair drifted in the wind. Punching with only one arm was faster and fiercer than punching with both hands. Bang! The attacks of the heavenly gods and the human gods had completely overwhelmed the planet, splitting it in half. At this moment, Yi Fei's body also erupted with a terrifying spiritual storm. This storm was like a golden hurricane that blew across the starry sky, the planet and the human gods and heavenly god. Heavenly stars palm. Bang! The planet could no longer endure the battle between the three paragons. Crashing sounds could be heard as the two halves of the planet shattered into countless fragments. Within the fragments, Yi Fei, the heavenly god, and the heavenly god were three terrifying beams of light that continuously collided, separated, collided, and separated again. Suddenly, the human god could not help but yell, "Yi, don't hit my face!" The heaven god yelled furiously, "How shameless! How dare you kick my face!" Following this, two figures landed on a piece of broken meteorite, causing it to shake vigorously. Yi Fei's figure slowly landed on the meteorite. He stared coldly at the human god and the heaven god. Human god, heaven god, are you convinced? Son of AB*****, we're not convinced. The human god and the heaven god snapped. If our true forms were here, killing you would be as easy as slaughtering a lamb. Yi Fei shook his head. It seems like you are really getting old. That's right, what's the point of having your true forms here? Don't forget, I'm only using the shaman Dao now. I've yet to master my martial arts. Once I achieve the 9 heavens supreme realm in terms of martial arts, I won't be afraid even if all of you fight me together. Boom! All of a sudden, Yi Fei's battle intent and pride surged into the sky. He didn't attack the deities and heavenly deities anymore. Instead, he walked past them and walked towards the human race's fortress. Looking at Yi Fei's back, both deity and deity's eyes flashed with ferocity and shock. If they were in Yi Fei's position, they would never make such a mistake. They would never turn their backs on their opponent when they could still fight back. At this time, if they suddenly launched a sneak attack, they would definitely be able to severely injure Yi Fei. The heavenly god's eyes turned cold, and he gripped the eternal spear in his hand tightly. The human deity's severed arm grew back, the new arm muscles bouncing about, covered in twisted veins, ready to erupt with terrifying power at any moment. However, when they saw the young man with his back facing them, the man-celestials and sky-celestials were unable to do anything. After all, they had been affected by Yi Fei's words. We can severely injure Emperor Yi, but we definitely can't kill him. The sorcerer Dao he walks is also different from the other sorcerer gods. It's another kind of martial Dao. The man-celestial's eyes turned, and no one knew what he was thinking. It's my miscalculation. If I knew this kid could reach this step, I would have ignored Zhao Yu's threat and killed him directly when he first stepped into the human race's battlefield. The heavenly god's face was ashen, and he couldn't help but loosen his grip on the eternal spear. The man-celestials and sky-celestials' little movements were clearly sensed by Yi Fei. After all, he still had little Chao hidden on him. Dragon Turtle and Ling Siki. This was the reason why Yi Fei dared to turn his back to the man-celestials and sky-celestials. If the man-celestials and sky-celestials thought this was his weakness and joined forces to launch a sneak attack, Yi Fei could guarantee that they would die miserably. However, The man celestials and sky celestials' silent actions made him heave a sigh of relief. It seems like you still have reason. You guys are still rational. Hatred can't blind your minds. Big brother, second brother, I was rude just now. Yi Fei's murderous aura dissipated, and he turned around again with a bright smile on his face. He walked over to personally help the man celestials and sky celestials up. Get lost. We can get up on our own, why do we need you to help us? The sky celestials were angry and aggrieved. He immediately raised the eternal spear, and stared at Yi Fei as if he was facing a great enemy. The man celestials also sighed. Although they didn't want to admit it, the current Yi Fei was no longer a chess piece that they could manipulate at will. He was now an invincible prime who was on equal footing with them. The man celestials asked in a low voice, "Why don't you kill us? Aren't you afraid that our true bodies and our doppelgangers will join forces to deal with you?" "Why should I be afraid? Aren't you afraid that I'll join forces with my master, the demonic emperor, and Gong Zhu to deal with you? The demonic emperor has the devouring divine body, and it's only a matter of time before he breaks through to the earthly venerable rank. Gong Zhu has the golden divine treasure, and as long as I'm willing, I can also help him break through to the sorcerer god level in an extremely short period of time. Because you have no chance of winning." Yi Fei smiled, but his words made the man celestials and sky celestials shudder. They were shocked to discover that Yi Fei's strength had unknowingly surpassed the combined strength of their two great temples. As if he didn't see the changes in the man celestials and sky celestials' expressions, Yi Fei suddenly said in a low voice, "Of course, from my point of view, it wouldn't be too much for me to kill you for everything you've done to Zhao Yu and me. However, from the point of view of the human emperor, you're all the remaining earthly venerables on the human battlefield. Killing you would be detrimental to the human race. Moreover, putting aside personal grudges, we all have a common enemy." The man celestial's expressions changed again, and the sky celestial's expressions suddenly became extremely solemn. "Are you talking about Zhao Xinjian of the Hidden God Temple? Why are you still willing to put aside your hatred and join forces with us after we destroyed the human emperor's temple?" Yi Fei's gaze turned cold, and his expression turned grave. "If possible, I'd rather kill you than join forces with you. However, the situation is different now. Zhao Xinjian is too strange. I'm confident that I can kill him, but I'm not confident that I can capture him alive. Therefore, I need to join forces with you and Mo together. The human emperor will capture Zhao Xinjian alive." The man celestials and sky celestials were shocked again. They finally understood why Yi Fei didn't kill them. He wanted to join forces with them to fight against the Hidden God Temple. "No wonder you deliberately lured us to this uninhabited star. However, why should we help you? We can totally join forces with the Hidden God Temple to fight against you," the man celestials said coldly, and the sky celestials kept sneering. They had been tricked by Yi Fei too miserably. They wished they could skin Yi Fei alive and pull out his tendons. How could they join forces with Yi Fei? Yi Fei looked at the two indifferently. He was very confident and he shook his head. "It's impossible for you to join forces with the Hidden God Temple. Oh right, I forgot to tell you. When Zhao Xinjian gave me the Hidden God battle robe and ordered me to think of a way to destroy this marriage, he hid a very strange spell on the Hidden God battle robe. A spell that can kill the sorcerer god." Yi Fei sighed when he thought of how Shangju's spirit had dissipated in order to break this spell, and how he had completely died in his memory. Chapter 1923. At this point, Yi Fei's eyes flashed with a cold glint. He did not release the human deity and heavenly deity because he wanted to make use of them to fight against the most mysterious and strange hidden divine hall. Although the human deity and heavenly deity had made mistakes, they had also made great contributions. If not for the human deity and heavenly deity taking turns to guard the impregnable pass, the human battlefield would have been conquered by the sorcerer tribe long ago. Billions of humans would have been enslaved. Since Yi Fei had become the human emperor, he had to think from the perspective of a human emperor. He had to be fair in his rewards and punishment. This was the real reason why he had let the human deity and heavenly deity go. I can let the human deity and heavenly deity go, but I can't let Zhao Shenzhen and the hidden divine hall behind him go. Yi Fei thought of Shang Jiao, who had sacrificed himself to get rid of the hidden danger of the hidden divine battle robe. When he thought of Zhao Shenzhen's mysterious actions, a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He stopped talking to the human deity and heavenly deity, and did not care if they would join forces to launch a sneak attack at the last moment. He just took a step forward and activated the void technique. He returned to the impregnable pass of the human race. During this time, the human deity and heavenly deity's eyes were filled with killing intent and anger. They wanted to attack and severely injure Yi Fei, but Yi Fei did not turn back. This calmness, and the shadow of being defeated by Yi Fei were like a heavy mountain. Heavenly deity's forehead was covered in cold sweat, while the human deity aged a lot in an instant. I finally understand why that narcissist Wang Bai chose Yi Fei to be the human emperor. We've lived for more than 100,000 years, but we can't even compare to a junior. He has guts and boldness. The god of heaven closed his legs tightly and said hatefully, "That guy surnamed Yi really has guts. He dares to show his back to us without any preparation. However, his fighting methods are too despicable. He's a disgrace to us Supremes." Boom! The battle at the impregnable pass of the human race was intense. However, it was no longer a battle between martial gods. Instead, it was an earth-shattering battle between the demon emperor, a half-step earthly venerable, and Zhao Shenzhen. The devil emperor turned into a black sun and continued to devour everything between heaven and earth. Energy and light were endless, like a black hole, constantly dissolving the divine spear radiance of Zhao Shenzhen. Zhao Shenzhen's expression was solemn, but there was also a trace of surprise and shock. With just one swallowing sky style, not only did you activate the devouring divine body, you even broke through to half-step earthly venerable rank. It's truly amazing. However, making me your enemy is your biggest mistake. Kill. The huge divine spear swung like a divine dragon, piercing out terrifying regions of nothingness in the heaven and earth. Furthermore, these spear radiances instantly found the location of the Devil Emperor, who had transformed into a black sun. Boom! The black sun that the Devil Emperor had transformed into was suddenly shattered by the boundless spear light, revealing the Devil Emperor's shocked true body. You actually discovered that the foundation of the black sun is the heaven-devouring art. Who are you? How do you know about the heaven-devouring art? What? Heaven-devouring art? Yi Fei had just returned from the starry sky when he heard the Devil Emperor's words. He could not help but be shocked. Of course, he knew about the heaven-devouring art. It was one of the sword techniques that he had mastered the earliest. It was also one of the sword techniques of the Annihilation Sword. The Devil Emperor had relied on the heaven-devouring art of this sword technique to create a unique devouring martial Dao, until he mastered the Black Sun and became a half-step earthly venerable. And Zhao Shenzhen was actually very familiar with the heaven-devouring art. He had actually discovered the weakness of the Devil Emperor's Black Sun from the heaven-devouring art and countered the Devil Emperor's strongest attack. The Devil Emperor seemed to have thought of something. He suddenly roared in anger and took out the spirit-devouring sword that he had not used for a long time. The huge demonic sword quickly turned into a huge demonic sword mountain. Under the intense sword radiance, the demonic mountain quickly turned into a black hole. The technique that the Devil Emperor had used was one that Yi Fei was incomparably familiar with. The heaven-devouring sword. Seeing this sword radiance, a trace of nostalgia appeared on Zhao Shenzhen's face. "You're the Devil Emperor? You're not bad. You were actually able to deduce the annihilation sword that this sovereign unintentionally created to a level where you can surpass me. Unfortunately, your ability is still not enough. This sovereign will let you know what this is. This is the true annihilation sword. Sword Qi devouring heaven, Zhao Shenzhen roared. He suddenly put away his divine spear and used his fingers like a sword. He was also using the heaven-devouring art, and it was even stronger and more domineering than the Devil Emperor's. A black hole-like sword radiance tore through the sky and devoured the world. The moment the sword radiances collided, a sword finger lightly tapped the spirit-devouring sword. The spirit-devouring sword that had accompanied the Devil Emperor for thousands of years let out a wail as it was cut in two by Zhao Shenzhen's finger. Sword Qi burning heaven, burying heaven, annihilating heaven, kaboom! Sword Qi soared into the galaxy, cold light illuminating the impregnable pass. Zhao Shenzhen's killing intent rose. He suddenly used 3 sword fingers in a row, completely using the annihilation sword. As he broke the spirit-devouring sword, he also tapped the Devil Emperor's body. Moreover, the annihilation sword that Zhao Shenzhen used was not an ordinary martial emperor's ultimate technique. It was a powerful earthly venerable realm technique. The moment they saw the sword technique, Yi Fei and the Devil Emperor were both shocked, filled with shock and disbelief. Above the impregnable pass, the stone puppet and the guardian elder, who were still standing on Fu Renjie's demonic dragon, widened their eyes in shock. Annihilation 4 swords, how is this possible? Isn't that the heaven-abandoning great emperor's sword technique? How can Zhao Shenzhen know it too, and its power is so terrifying? Heaven-abandoning great emperor, your heaven-abandoning great emperor. The Devil Emperor was shocked as he looked at Zhao Shenzhen in disbelief. No, he can't be heaven-abandoning great emperor. Heaven-abandoning great emperor like me. Most importantly, heaven-abandoning great emperor is someone from the ancient era tens of thousands of years ago, while Zhao Shenzhen is only an ancestor of the Zhao clan from 1,000 years ago. Yi Fei shook his head vigorously. Just like the Devil Emperor, when Zhao Shenzhen used the annihilation sword, Yi Fei could not help but be distracted. After all, his and the Devil Emperor's sword principle had been enlightened by the Heaven's burial style and the Heaven-devouring style. If the person in front of them was really heaven-abandoning great emperor, then he was their common ancestor. This was the effect that Zhao Shenzhen wanted. After all, they were both half-step earthly venerables. If the difference in their battle strength was not great, it would be difficult to determine the winner even if they fought for 10 days to half a month. However, if he could think of a way to disturb the opponent's mind, even if it was only for 1,000th of a second, it would be enough to turn the tables. Kill. Thus, after discovering that the origin of the demonic emperor's devouring was the sky-swallowing style, Zhao Shenzhen was extremely vicious. He purposely used the annihilation sword, an earthly venerable level annihilation sword, to kill the demonic emperor while he was distracted. Roar. However, just as Zhao Shenzhen's finger was about to pierce through the Devil Emperor's body, an earth-shattering dragon roar suddenly resounded between heaven and earth. It suppressed time and space and suppressed Zhao Shenzhen's body. Chapter 1924. Bam! Yi Fei's attack had snapped the demonic emperor out of his daze, but for a half-step earthly venerable, a moment of distraction was enough to decide the outcome of the battle. Zhao Shenzhen's sword finger still landed on the demonic emperor, but it didn't kill him. It only blasted a bloody hole in his chest, causing him to fall off the impregnable pass. Then came the furious roar of Yi Fei's 8 extreme heavenly dragons. They formed dragons of laws that continuously bombarded Zhao Shenzhen's body. "How dare you injure my master? I'll take your life." Yi Fei looked at the heavily injured figure of the demonic emperor as he fell off the impregnable pass. Murderous intent and anger suddenly appeared on his body. The 8 extreme heavenly dragons weren't enough. Another beam of peerless heaven calamity condensed from destructive finger light collided fiercely with Zhao Shenzhen's annihilation sword finger. Crack! Yi Fei's peerless heaven calamity finger suddenly cracked. Large amounts of blood flowed out of his palm and into the starry sky. Humph, you can only use 70% of your spiritual energy to execute martial arts. Even if you defeat a heavenly god and a man-god, how long can your spiritual energy last? Watch carefully, this is the true annihilation sword. Zhao Shenzhen's face was instantly filled with rage. His attempt to kill the demonic emperor had been stopped by Yi Fei. He once again used his finger as a sword. Taking advantage of the fact that Yi Fei's finger was injured, a terrifying beam of sword light suddenly sliced through 6 heavenly dragons of laws in succession. Then, it ruthlessly pierced toward Yi Fei's divine treasures. Yi Fei, Zhao Yu and Lu Qing both became nervous. The demonic emperor's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He was filled with regret. He shouldn't have been distracted by Zhao Shenzhen. Kill! Yi Fei let out a furious roar. He didn't seem to feel his finger bones breaking. His hand was covered in blood. The demonic emperor's heavy injury had thoroughly enraged Yi Fei. Boom! Suddenly, a giant palm made of stars appeared above the impregnable pass. It carried Yi Fei's anger and also carried Yi Fei's blood. It smashed forward like a falling star. Zhao Shenzhen was horrified to discover that his sky-extinguishing sword finger was no longer pointing at Yi Fei, but an indestructible star. And this star was the strongest attack that Yi Fei had gathered with the all-heaven star's palm. A loud bang was heard. The light from Zhao Shenzhen's finger dimmed and then collapsed. Then, a palm as large as a star slammed into Zhao Shenzhen, causing him to vomit blood. Half of his body went numb. How is this possible? You've fought against a human god and a celestial god. Even if you won, your divine treasures should be extremely empty. How can you still possess such vigorous mental energy? Damn it, break for me. One with the spear. Invisible soul-devouring spear. Zhao Shenzhen was, after all, a half-step earthly venerable. He used some kind of secret technique to twist his body in a strange way, finally avoiding the attack range of Yi Fei's celestial star's palm. Then, he once again became one with his spear, activated the invisible spirit spear technique, and stabbed at Yi Fei again. Furthermore, Zhao Shenzhen had seized the moment when Yi Fei had struck out with his palm, causing his mental energy to falter for a moment. A cold spear light pierced through Yi Fei's chest like a venomous snake in the dark, shattering Yi Fei's divine treasures. Only then did Zhao Shenzhen reveal a proud and cold smile. Humph, no matter how strong your mental energy is, as long as your divine treasures are shattered and your mind is in chaos, you won't be able to use battle techniques of battle shaman. All heaven stars palm. Yi Fei didn't say anything. Suddenly, when Zhao Shenzhen's spear pierced through his divine treasures, he grabbed the spear in his body with one hand and raised it with the other. Then, the entire starry sky was filled with Yi Fei's furious roar. Kaboom! Another giant palm of stars mercilessly slammed towards Zhao Shenzhen with a terrifying destructive force. Zhao Shenzhen's originally smiling face immediately stiffened in shock. Then, a deep sense of fear appeared. No, this is impossible. I clearly pierced through your divine treasures, but you can't use battle techniques in such a short time. That's because you can't use any combat skills at all. Why do you still have such powerful mental strength? Yi Fei didn't answer. The horrifying starry palms in the starry sky were his best answer. That's right, once a divine treasure was shattered, a magus would be severely injured and lose the ability to fight. However, Zhao Shenzhen would never have imagined that Yi Fei had more than one divine treasure in his body. It was 2 divine treasures. The primordial treasure spring of spirit was equivalent to Yi Fei's second divine treasure. Therefore, even though Zhao Xinjian had pierced through his divine treasure, Yi Fei could still rely on his second divine treasure to continue using the All-Heaven Stars Palm, a powerful battle technique comparable to an earthly venerable technique. Furthermore, it was 100% complete release. When Zhao Xinjian realized this, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Then, a strong sense of unwillingness and fear flashed through his eyes. No, I can't die. This doppelganger contains my origin divine soul. It must not be destroyed. Darkness, awaken for me. Zhao Xinjian's mouth suddenly emitted a terrifying demonic sound. His eyes instantly sank into complete darkness and madness, as if he had suddenly turned into a demon. Not only did he block Yi Fei's All-Heaven Stars Palm, but at the same time, a giant spear shadow that contained a black demonic light appeared like a heavenly tribulation. It appeared from the endless void and fiercely descended towards Yi Fei, towards the human race's impregnable pass. The human gods and sky gods who had just rushed over suddenly let out terrified cries. That's the death demonic spear. He's not Zhao Xinjian, nor is he Qitian. He's Dark Lord. What, Dark Lord? He's Dark Lord, the mastermind behind the sorcerer tribe. Yi Fei's expression changed drastically. Although he had long suspected that Zhao Xinjian might have died long ago and that someone else might have occupied Zhao Xinjian's body, he had never imagined that the one occupying Zhao Xinjian's body would not be the ancient heaven-abandoning Grand Emperor, but the one and only Empyrean of this world, Empyrean Lord of Darkness. Suddenly, a strong sense of fear attacked Yi Fei's heart. He was confident that he could defeat any earthly venerable, but against the death demonic spear summoned by Dark Lord, Yi Fei did not have the slightest confidence that he could withstand it. No, I have to escape. I have to escape. Bang! At this critical juncture, Yi Fei suddenly made an extremely crazy move. The third All-Heaven Stars Palm that he had condensed was not aimed at the death demonic spear descending from the sky, but at the divine spear that had pierced his body. Yi Fei immediately felt a sharp pain in his body. The divine spear had rapidly pierced through his golden divine treasure and pierced through his back, causing a bloody bowl-sized hole to appear on Yi Fei's body. Blood spurted out of Yi Fei's body like a fountain. The sharp pain caused Yi Fei's vision to darken, and he almost fainted on the spot. Chapter 1925. At this distance, the demonic death spear summoned by the dark heavenly lord also exploded. It was like a terrifying heavenly tribulation that could destroy all living things. It fell from the sky and shattered the galaxy. Not only did it pierce through the space Yi Fei was in, but even the magnificent walls of the human race's impregnable pass, which were tens of thousands of meters high, were destroyed. The shadow of the demonic death spear was completely penetrated. All the martial gods and martial emperors in that area were annihilated. They evaporated on the spot like black fog. This was the terror of the demonic death spear. This was the terror of the dark heavenly lord. As the main culprit who had single-handedly provoked the human race and the sorcerer race to fight each other for hundreds of thousands of years, the dark heavenly lord not only had great strength, but he also had extremely brilliant methods. But this time, I still miscalculated. I shouldn't have chosen Yi Fei to be my chess piece to destroy the alliance between the human race and the sorcerer race. I also shouldn't have given him the hidden god battle robe. It exposed my identity. The more the dark heavenly lord spoke, the angrier he became. The moment the dark heavenly lord awakened, his aura was filled with a terrifying and oppressive power of the world. This was the pressure of a heavenly lord, and it was also the strongest power in this world. Although the Zhao Xinjian clone that the dark heavenly lord was controlling was only at the half-step earthly venerate realm, when he released that dark aura, Yi Fei still felt as if he had walked through the gates of hell. Then 2 angry roars entered Yi Fei's ears. "Human Emperor Yi, what are you waiting for? The dark heavenly lord is the greatest enemy of the human race's impregnable pass. He must be killed. Even if it's just his clone, he can't be left alive. While they were angry, the human gods and divine gods felt even more fear. It should be known that in the great war between the human race and the sorcerer race for hundreds of thousands of years, the dark heavenly lord had never personally taken action. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. After all, when the dark heavenly lord had fled to the underworld, he had suffered extremely serious injuries. This kind of injury caused the dark heavenly lord to fall into a deep sleep after roughly subduing many sorcerer gods of the sorcerer race. He would only wake up for a short while every 10,000 years to deal with the threat of the sorcerer race. Threats and hidden dangers. But this time, not only had the dark heavenly lord quietly awakened, he had also secretly refined Zhao Xinjian's doppelganger, and even concealed himself in the impregnable pass of the human race, secretly controlling the hidden god palace. This caused the human gods and heavenly gods to be filled with vigilance and worry. It was also because of this crisis that the human god and celestial god decided to temporarily put aside their grudges with Yi Fei and join forces to deal with their greatest enemy, Empyrean darkness. Human god fist. The dazzling fist light shook the galaxy. The blood in the human deity's body burned fiercely, forming a pillar of blood that shot up into the sky. Within that pillar of blood, the human deity's body suddenly grew by 3 to 5 meters, becoming a giant of flesh and blood. The huge fist was like a war hammer, causing the void to explode. Spear of eternity, myriad Daos returned to one. The heavenly god roared as well. His body suddenly lit up like a star, and every strand of his hair burned fiercely, forming countless beams of eternal light. It was like a violent storm that was about to drown the entire impregnable pass of the human race. Yi Fei's expression was filled with shock and disbelief. The human gods and heavenly gods were actually hiding such power. Why didn't they use it when they were facing me just now? It's not that they didn't use it, but that they didn't dare use it. Because once they did, they would have to destroy their doppelganger. Against you, they still had some hope of surviving, but against the dark heavenly lord, none of the earthly venerables dared to hope for a fluke. A violent cough came from behind. It was the demon king. Dragging his heavily injured body, he walked over step by step from afar. The demon king walked the path of a pure battle demon. Although he wasn't as strong as a battle wizard, the dark heavenly lord's attack still couldn't completely make the demon king lose his ability to fight. At this moment, seeing the human gods and heavenly gods destroying their doppelganger to unleash their strongest power, the demon king didn't say anything. Suddenly, he let out a demonic roar. His divine soul left his body and turned into a black demonic sun. Yi Fei, let go of your body and accept my power. Remember, no matter what grudges you have with the heavenly gods and the human gods, you must put them aside for the time being. You must defeat the dark heavenly lord first. Protect the human race. Devouring demonic skill, reverse the injury. Boom! The moment the demon king's divine soul touched Yi Fei's body, it turned into a mysterious devouring power. However, what the demon king devoured this time wasn't Yi Fei's true core strength or mind power, but Yi Fei's injuries. How is this possible? My severely injured divine treasure is actually recovering. The bloody hole in my chest is also disappearing. Bang! Just as Yi Fei was shocked by the strangeness of the demon king's devouring demonic skill, suddenly, the demon king, who had activated his demonic skill, screamed miserably. A bloody hole had appeared in his chest that was exactly the same as Yi Fei's injuries. The demon heart within his body also exploded on the spot, creating a crack that was exactly the same as Yi Fei's divine treasure. The intense pain caused the demon king to scream. It hurts. Stinking brat, I made a grave mistake when I accepted you as my disciple. Hurry and get out of here. If you can't kill the dark heavenly lord, then don't come back. Puff. In the end, the demon king wasn't Yi Fei. After using the devouring demonic skill to devour Yi Fei's injuries, the demon king groaned several times and was covered in cold sweat. Then, he vomited blood and fainted. Seeing the demon king's injuries, Yi Fei's eyes turned red. Then, he held back his tears and glared at the distant dark heavenly lord with killing intent. He roared, "I don't care if you are Zhao Xinjian or dark heavenly lord, I will kill you! Stars of the heavens!" When the demon king's injuries were devoured and transferred, Yi Fei's divine treasure was instantly restored to its original state. It even became stronger and tougher. At the same time, the demon king also injected all his cultivation into Yi Fei's body. Yi Fei didn't hold back and allowed his undying sword soul to devour all of this power. Then, a terrifying destructive sword light erupted from Yi Fei's body and slashed forward. When man deity saw this sword light, his expression changed drastically. Previously, Yi Fei had used this sword light to severely injure him. It was also this sword light that made man deity extremely wary of Yi Fei. When he saw Yi Fei use this sword light again, man deity became extremely excited. His fist light became even more resplendent. It wasn't just his body, but even his consciousness started to burn intensely. It wasn't just man deity. The sky deity beside him was the same. The eternal spear released a terrifying divine light that could shatter the starry sky. Then, the sky deity's eternal country exploded, forming a sphere of realm power that could tear apart the heavens and earth. It actually forced dark heavenly lord, who was trying to escape, to fall from the sky. He was blasted back to the human race's impregnable pass. In the sky above the impregnable pass, the furious roar of Dark Lord could be heard. "Human God, divine God, you lowly commoners of the lower realms, how dare you stop me? Get out of my way!" Chapter 1926. Death Demonic Spear, Lower Realm Wretches, Die for Me. Boom. Heaven and earth trembled. Faced with the frenzied entanglement of the man-god and heavenly god, Dark Heavenly Lord had no other choice but to activate Darkness Awakening again and summon the mysterious Death Demonic Spear at the end of the void. This Death Demonic Spear also had a strange power. It wasn't the divine power of an earthly venerate, nor was it the mind power of a sorcerer god. Instead, it was an even more vigorous and powerful power. When this power condensed into the shadow of death, two terrifying black spear lights appeared at the end of the void. One pierced towards the man-god and the other pierced towards the heavenly god, as if they wanted to nail these two earthly venerates to death. Yi Fei's expression changed. If he had been seriously injured, he definitely wouldn't have dared to block these two terrifying death demonic spears. However, things were different now. The Demon Emperor had already used the strange devouring demonic art to devour his injured body. The Demon Emperor had also transferred all his true yuan into Yi Fei's body. He thought of the Demon Emperor's sacrifice and his instructions. Even though he was unhappy with the man-god and heavenly god, Yi Fei still decided to follow the Demon Emperor's instructions. The destructive sword light released by the undying sword soul suddenly changed its direction. It changed from slashing towards Dark Heavenly Lord to slashing towards the descending death demonic spear. However, the man-god who saw this suddenly turned around and cursed, "Bastard, who told you to save us? Don't worry about us. Killing Dark Heavenly Lord is more important." Human Tao Divine Tribulation. Blazing fist lights erupted from the man-god's body. He waved his fists, ignoring the descending death demonic spear. He only raised his fists that were as bright as stars and smashed them towards Dark Heavenly Lord. Dark Heavenly Lord flew into a rage. "Man-god, you are courting death." "Yes, we are courting death. However, if we don't kill you, what will die in the future won't be our clones, but our true bodies." The heavenly god's entire body turned into an eternal light. As the kingdom of eternity shattered, the heavenly God actually completely fused himself with the eternal spear. He also formed a dazzling spear light that ruthlessly stabbed forward. However, the heavenly God didn't stab Dark Heavenly Lord's true body. Instead, it was the hidden God's spear that Dark Heavenly Lord hurriedly raised. Dark Empyrean's complexion immediately changed. He never imagined that the situation would spiral out of control to the point where even he couldn't control it. Although Dark Empyrean had relied on his Empyrean combat consciousness to forcefully use the hidden God's spear to block the eternal spear of Heavenly God, he was still able to do so. He also used the demonic spear of death to instantly nail the deity and heavenly God's bodies from head to toe in the starry sky of the human race's impregnable pass. However, just as the human God and divine God had said, in order to deal with Dark Lord, a great enemy of the human race, even if they had to give up 2 clones, the human God and divine God wouldn't hesitate. Human God, celestial God, it seems like I've underestimated you. Not only are you ambitious people, you're also heroes. I'll help you finish what you haven't done yet. Yi Fei was deeply shocked. He understood that the reason the human deity and heavenly deity were doing this was because they feared Empyrean darkness and didn't dare to give him the slightest chance. There was no possibility of recovery. However, he still felt a sense of respect in his heart. Then, this respect turned into boiling murderous intent. Taking advantage of the time when the human God and heavenly God were desperately trying to stop Dark Lord, Yi Fei also took a step forward and charged into the terrifying Empyrean battlefield. In front of him was the destructive sword light of the undying sword soul. Behind him was a golden blood sword floating in the air. Suddenly, another loud dragon roar came from Yi Fei's body. The shattered heavenly dragon roared out once again. Then, another 10 destructive rays of endless heaven phaseless calamity condensed into a terrifying finger light and charged towards Dark Lord. Demonic spear of death, give me. Dark Lord's expression suddenly flashed with fear. He wasn't afraid of the human God and heavenly God because they were only clones of half-step earthly venerables. However, Yi Fei was different. Yi Fei didn't have any clones. He came directly with his true body, and it was the battle shaman body that was comparable to the human race's earthly venerables. In particular, the destructive sword light released by Yi Fei made even Dark Lord feel a sense of fear from the bottom of his heart. However, before Dark Lord could summon the demonic spear of death again, abruptly, Yi Fei raised both of his hands toward the sky, instantly attracting endless starlight that condensed into 2 huge starlight palms. At the same time, they enveloped the Dark Heavenly Lord. Battle technique: celestial starlight palms. Yi Fei spat out these words coldly. Then, endless martial arts and battle technique light completely engulfed Dark Lord. Not only did it interrupt Dark Lord's summoning of the demonic spear of death, but it also completely blew up Dark Lord's clones, which were comparable to half-step earthly venerables, with a loud bang. It exploded. In the starry sky, a mass of exploded flesh and blood suddenly appeared. Within the flesh and blood, there was a gloomy, bloodthirsty, furious, and crazy broken spirit. It desperately rushed out of the flesh and blood and roared furiously, "How dare you! Yi Fei, Renhuang Yi, Sovereign Yi, Demon Yi!" Very good, very good. I will remember you. The moment I wake up, I will cut off your head. Are you done talking? If you are, you can die. Kill, Annihilation Sword. Yi Fei roared. His divine treasures were hidden and his spirit was revealed. At this moment, he instantly reverted back to being a demigod. Ignoring the exhaustion of his mental strength, he directly used his abundant true origin to display the most basic martial arts he was most familiar with, the Annihilation Sword. The sword slashed towards Dark Lord's broken spirit. Dark Heavenly Venerable's eyes suddenly widened. He was so angry that his divine soul started to burn. A terrifying devil flame glared at Yi Fei. Even if you beat Dark Heavenly Venerable to death, he would never have thought that Yi Fei would use some powerful martial art to destroy his divine soul. Instead, it was the exterminating sky sword that he had created after entering the ancestral dragon continent. Moreover, the annihilation sword that Yi Fei used was not an earthly venerable martial arts. It was only the most basic martial emperor's unique skill. I am a dignified celestial venerable. My spirit was actually destroyed by this brat using an inferior martial emperor's unique skill. Dark Lord was so angry that his eyes emitted flames. His distorted face instantly turned red, as if he had been slapped hard in the face. With a final bang, Dark Lord's martial arts that he had cultivated with great difficulty were destroyed. His divine soul also exploded at this moment, turning into countless streaks of light. At this point, under the joint attack of Yi Fei, the Demon Emperor, the Human God, and the Divine God, Dark Lord's doppelganger was finally destroyed completely, leaving no trace behind. This also caused the many gold wizards who were still fighting and the martial gods of the Human God Palace and Divine God Palace to be shocked. They felt that the surroundings were filled with a great terror. That is Dark Lord. How could a celestial venerable's doppelganger die in battle? Suddenly, among the many martial gods, a small group of martial gods cried out in shock and fear. These martial gods had all been instigated by Zhao Xinjian and had secretly joined the hidden shrine. However, it was obvious that they weren't loyal to the hidden shrine, but to Heavenly Venerate He. Chapter 1927. The only thing that Dark Lord Celestial Venerable had miscalculated was Yi Fei and Shang Jiu, who had been hiding in Yi Fei's memories and was bent on revenge. For the sake of revenge, Shang Jiu was willing to sacrifice himself to help Yi Fei eliminate the hidden danger of the invisible god battle robe. During this time, Yi Fei had broken through to the sorcerer deity realm at an unbelievable speed. Not only had he broken free from Dark Lord Celestial Venerable's control, but he had also unintentionally disrupted Dark Lord Celestial Venerable's plan. Dark Lord Celestial Venerable's plan. Dark Lord Celestial Venerable had no choice but to take the risk and appear in person to expose Yi Fei. He had also tried to instigate a blood feud between Yi Fei and the mortal god and sky god. However, what caused the Dark Exalted Celestial to miscalculate once again was that even though Yi Fei had defeated the human god and heavenly god, from the perspective of the human sovereign, Yi Fei had resolutely set aside their grudges for the time being and joined forces with the human god and heavenly god to destroy the Dark Exalted Celestial's clone. This scene terrified the traitorous martial gods. Martial god Waning Moon, who was their leader, suddenly thought of something and shouted, "Dark Lord Celestial Venerable will not die. He will definitely make a comeback and capture the mortal god's son, Zhao Yu, and the Demon Emperor. We still have a chance to survive. Kill them. Yes, capture them. We will kill anyone who stands in our way." The shock only lasted for a moment. The traitorous martial gods, who had come to their senses, immediately pounced on Zhao Yu and the unconscious Demon Emperor. Martial god Waning Moon, who was their leader, dashed directly toward the mortal god's son. The mortal god's son was already enraged by Yi Fei's jealousy. When he saw that his former protector was going to capture him to save his life, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Then the Son of Man's eyes turned. He didn't fight Waning Moon martial god. Instead, he suddenly charged towards Yi Fei, whose true essence and psychic energy were both exhausted. "Martial Uncle Yi, save me! Save Martial Nephew!" Yi Fei's expression changed drastically. He even faintly revealed a trace of paleness and fear. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Don't come over. My true essence and mental energy are already exhausted. Any martial god can kill me. Don't draw the enemy over." "What? That Yi fellow has already lost his ability to fight? Ha ha, that's great. I can finally trample him under my feet. Even if I can't kill you, I'll make you lose a lot of face." The Son of Man God was overjoyed. He immediately ran toward Yi Fei at an even faster speed. At the same time, Yi Fei's words made Zhao Yu and Lu Qing turn pale with fright. Zhao Yu was so anxious that he burned his blood on the spot. He desperately wanted to rush over and help Yi Fei. Lu Qing shouted. Her whole body was covered with lightning. Suddenly, she was like an angry mother of lightning. She also wanted to rush toward Yi Fei. However, although they were fast, Waning Moon Martial God was even faster. He originally wanted to capture the Son of Man God to save his life. He didn't expect that he would encounter Yi Fei at his weakest. At this time, any martial god could kill Yi Fei and obtain great appreciation from Dark Lord. Waning Moon Martial God was so excited that his whole body trembled. He completely ignored the Son of Man God who had already caught up to him. He also burned his martial god essence blood and rushed in front of Yi Fei in one step, laughing wildly. He said, "Ha ha ha, Emperor Yi, I, Waning Moon, want your head." What a coincidence. I'm also very interested in your traitor's head. Yi Fei's pale face suddenly turned cold. His big hand fiercely formed a sword and quickly pointed at Waning Moon Martial God's forehead. Puff! Yi Fei's finger easily pierced through Waning Moon Martial God's forehead. Only a corpse was left, lying stiffly in front of Yi Fei. Then, Yi Fei kicked away Waning Moon Martial God's corpse and directly walked in front of Man God's son. He didn't say anything. A formless aura scared the Man God's son so much that his lips turned blue. Even if you beat the Man God's son to death, he would never have imagined that Yi Fei could kill a martial god with just his physical strength without any quintessence or mental energy. Thinking that he actually wanted to use Waning Moon Martial God to scheme against Yi Fei, a wave of indescribable fear suddenly appeared. Man God's son immediately lost his courage. His knees went soft and he involuntarily knelt in front of Yi Fei. "Human Emperor, please spare me." Man God's son watched in horror as Yi Fei raised his hand and placed it on his head. He didn't feel any pain as he had expected. Yi Fei patted Man God's son's head as if he was petting a pet and said, "Since you've called me martial uncle, I'll forgive you for what happened today. Now, stand aside and don't block my way." Saying this, Yi Fei walked past Man God's son, leaving him kneeling in the air with a blank face. He wasn't trying to kill me. Why should I be afraid? Why should I kneel in front of him? I hate it. The Son of Man God's face was filled with grief, shame, and humiliation. That was especially true when Yi Fei patted him on the head for the third time in front of everyone, as if he were a pet. The Son of Man God felt blood rush to his head, and he was so angry that he saw stars and passed out. This scene made the martial gods of the human shrine and divine shrine look at Yi Fei with fear and respect. "Human Emperor!" Someone suddenly shouted excitedly. "Human Emperor! Human Emperor!" Then, countless martial emperors and martial gods in the impregnable pass shouted excitedly. Human Emperor was a title and a form of respect. At this moment, Yi Fei had undoubtedly won the approval of most of the martial emperors and martial gods in the impregnable pass with his strength. They no longer called Yi Fei Human Emperor Yi, the new human emperor, but the real human emperor of the impregnable pass. Long live the human emperor! Long live the sovereign! Hearing the cheers of the martial gods, many gold-rank magi in the sorcerer tribe's camp did not want to be outdone and shouted loudly. To Gong Zhu and the other sorcerers, they didn't care whether Yi Fei was the human emperor or not. They only needed to know that Yi Fei was the sovereign they were loyal to and a lord worthy of following. That was enough for them. Human emperor! What a great human emperor! All the previous human emperors were invincible in their generation. I thought that this generation's human emperor would break this legend. I didn't expect him to be more dazzling and more popular than any of the previous human emperors. In the starry sky above the impregnable pass, the martial gods and human gods' clones had completely collapsed. Soon, two new martial gods and martial gods appeared in the starry sky. However, they were no longer clones. They were real earthly venerables. Originally, when the martial gods and martial gods had awakened, they had been discussing whether they should join forces to suppress Yi Fei while Yi Fei was exhausted. However, at this moment, when they heard the thunderous cheers from within the impregnable pass, the human gods and heavenly gods suddenly felt an invisible pressure weighing down on them. It was so oppressive that they no longer dared to look down on Yi Fei as they did in the past. Perhaps going against the human emperor palace was our biggest mistake. The martial gods suddenly sighed deeply. Fortunately, this kind of mistake can be made up for. After all, Zhao Yu is also half a daughter to me. I can also be considered half his father-in-law. The heavenly god was suddenly very pleased with himself. The way he looked at Yi Fei suddenly changed from being extremely displeased to being slightly pleasing to the eye. Chapter 1928. In the face of sky deity's soaring killing intent, man deity was dissatisfied. However, he suppressed his anger and said to himself, "Forget it. Now that the human sovereign is strong, I should give this shameless old man some face so that it will be easier for us to unite against the human sovereign in the future." Given sky deity's gloomy personality, it was impossible for him to fall out with man deity at this time. Seeing that man deity had stopped talking, sky deity smiled with satisfaction. However, when he saw the martial gods of sky deity palace who were running around trying to escape, a terrifying aura suddenly appeared on sky deity's body. Killing intent. Kill. Man deity was the fastest to act. When his body appeared, he had already sent out countless terrifying divine light fist radiance across the air. It was like a terrifying meteor shower that fell into the human tribe's impregnable pass and killed the martial gods of the human tribe's divine palace. Yi Fei's expression suddenly changed. He hurriedly rushed into the sky and shouted at man deity and sky deity, "Leave a few alive! We must uproot the hidden god palace." "Humph, human sovereign, are you ordering us?" Man deity was extremely unhappy. However, when he thought of Yi Fei's abnormal combat strength, he hesitated for a moment. In the end, he still left the two strongest martial gods of the traitors alive. On the other side, sky deity did the same. With the help of the two earthly venerables, the traitor martial gods who had secretly sided with Dark Lord were quickly eradicated. However, after this attack, the human tribe and sky deity palace had also suffered huge losses. In addition, man deity and sky deity's doppelgangers had been killed by the death demonic spear. In this battle, although the human tribe's impregnable pass had successfully stopped Dark Lord's scheme due to various accidents, they had also suffered huge losses. Supreme Venerables, let us deal with these people. We promise that we will make them tell us everything about how they wet their bed when they were 3 years old. Suddenly, Gong Zhu and a few golden great sorcerers who were comparable to upper-level martial gods walked out. These golden great sorcerers were weapon sorcerers who were good at refining venomous insects. They also had a special ability, which was that they were best at interrogating martial gods' souls. Obviously, under the pressure of Dark Lord's secret awakening, even if Yi Fei didn't say anything, these golden great sorcerers who had sided with Yi Fei felt an unprecedented crisis. This crisis also made the sorcerers spontaneously. They were willing to join forces with the human tribe. This was something that Yi Fei hadn't expected. "Human god, celestial god, my subordinates want to interrogate these people. Do you agree?" Yi Fei looked at them inquisitively. Even though Yi Fei had received the unanimous approval of countless martial gods, the human god and celestial god in front of him were not clones. If they were to join forces, Yi Fei would not be able to defeat them in his current state. Seeing that Yi Fei's tone was polite, that he didn't kill Holy Lord Heian, that he considered everyone beneath him, and that he even knew how to ask for their opinion, human deity and sky deity both nodded inwardly. What we have with the human sovereign is a personal grudge, but with Holy Lord Heian, we are public enemies. At present, it was better to join hands and deal with Dark Lord first. With this public enemy, we can settle our personal grudges with the human emperor. We can give you the people, but we can only give you half of them. We will interrogate the remaining half ourselves. As they spoke, the two of them had already captured a martial god who had betrayed them and returned to their respective temples. Yi Fei also immediately ordered Gong Zhu to capture the remaining two martial gods and hand them over to the few gold-rank great wizards for soul interrogation. During this time, Yi Fei also asked Gong Zhu about the casualties in the previous battle. What made him feel lucky was that his identity had been exposed too suddenly, and at the same time, the martial gods of the human god palace and the heavenly god palace had rebelled. Although the entire human clan was engaged in a fierce battle, without the order of the Supreme Being, both the gold great sorcerers and the martial gods of the human clan restrained themselves. Countless people from both sides were injured, but none of them died in the battle. This also made Yi Fei heave a sigh of relief. What he was most afraid of was the heavy casualties on both sides and the irreconcilable enmity between them. Now, it seemed that the situation was not too bad. The only thing that made Yi Fei feel bad was Versatile Emperor's serious injuries. Fortunately, Versatile Emperor had brought Heavenly God Palace and the huge Great Sorcerer puppet with him when he came out. Inside the palace, there were countless spiritual veins. As long as Versatile Emperor cultivated wholeheartedly inside, he would be able to recover from his injuries very quickly with his strange ability to devour divine bodies. On the other side, seeing that Yi Fei was fine, Zhao Yu also grabbed Lu Qing, Shang Jing grabbed Shangluo, and Ling Xiu grabbed Ling Siki. These women and girls were all holding a spiritual melon in their hand. As they chewed, they hid in a corner and talked about something. Yi Fei wanted to go over and eavesdrop, but Zhao Qianjun and Jing Wushou were helpless. These old friends of his were too enthusiastic. On the other hand, the great stone puppet was bragging to a group of gold-rank great sorcerers, "Believe me, I'm really the human emperor." Back then, if I didn't have a discerning eye and chose Kid Yi from the 10,000 people assessment, how could he have achieved what he has today? Not only did he break through to the Supreme Being level, but he also became a human emperor. Sigh, I didn't waste my efforts to nurture him. Don't forget there's still me. Let me tell you, I'm actually the human emperor's second uncle. If I didn't see how extraordinary Kid Yi was back then. The great stone puppet continued to boast. Yi Fei's face darkened. He resisted the urge to smash these two despicable stones on the spot. Yi Fei decided that what he didn't see wouldn't hurt him. He walked directly to the three deputy palace masters to discuss how to rebuild the human emperor's palace. After all, the human emperor's palace had always been the spiritual leader of the human battlefield. In the past, Yi Fei didn't have the strength, so he could only bear with it. Now that he had the strength, Yi Fei naturally wanted to rebuild the human emperor's palace. Moreover, he wanted it to be bigger and stronger than the previous human emperors. After all, the previous human emperors weren't as capable as Yi Fei. He was able to get 100,000 sorcerers to join the human emperor's palace in one go. Such a force had even surpassed the human god's palace and heavenly god's palace. When they saw the endless sorcerers, the three deputy palace lords of the human emperor's palace were so emotional that tears streamed down their cheeks as they burst into tears. Such emotions quickly infected the guardian elder and the grand supreme dean. They looked at Yi Fei with gratification and pride. After all, Yi Fei was from the Six-Path Sacred Sects and the Real Martial Sacred Academy. The greater Yi Fei's achievements, the more extraordinary the six-path sacred sects and the real martial sacred academy were. The Grand Supreme Dean could already imagine the explosive scene when the news of a supreme human emperor from the real martial sacred academy was spread. Countless geniuses would fight to enter the sacred academy. At this moment, the guardian elder suddenly thought of something. Just as Yi Fei was busy arranging the 100,000 sorcerers to enter the impregnable pass and rebuild the human emperor's palace, the guardian elder took out a token and handed it to Yi Fei. "Human emperor, do you know an assassin called the Black Hell Saint? This is the thing he left for you." He said it was the Black Hell token. Chapter 1929. This Black Hell Saint's son is really strange. Since he wanted to assassinate the guardian elder, why would he leave behind a token? Could it be that he wants to send a message, or is it purely to challenge me? Yi Fei was puzzled as he began to use his consciousness to check the Black Hell token. There was no message in the Black Hell token. There were only a dozen floating red dots that were very blurry. He couldn't see clearly. Yi Fei was even more puzzled. The guardian elder stood at the side and asked curiously, "Yi Fei, did you see anything? What is the Black Hell assassin trying to do?" The guardian elder was the first to receive the Black Hell token. He wanted to check it, but the Black Hell Saint's son had placed a self-destruct restriction on it. Unless it was a specific person, anyone who opened it would trigger the restriction and cause the Black Hell token to self-destruct. Therefore, the guardian elder didn't know what was left in the Black Hell token. What was it? Hearing that the Black Hell Saint's son left Yi Fei a token, Di Fan, Army of Destruction, Fu Renjie, Shui Yu and other familiar people gathered around curiously. Suddenly, Di Fan's expression changed. He came from a martial emperor family and had records of many ancient legends. Di Fan was the first to recognize the origin of the Black Hell token. "This is the identity token of Black Hell. According to my Di family's ancient records, this token can sense each other's location and make it convenient for assassins to assassinate. It can distinguish between friend and foe during the assassination. Assassins weren't warriors and rarely fought head-on. Black Hell's assassins would usually disguise themselves or even hide in someone's shadow to launch a sudden attack. At this time, the Black Hell token would allow the assassins to distinguish between friend and foe without having to see through the disguise." After listening to Di Fan's explanation, Yi Fei immediately realized that the Black Hell token was a blurry red dot that was constantly moving. It should be the exact location of the Black Hell assassins. Yi Fei couldn't help but be even more puzzled. "Brother Di, can you tell why the Black Hell Saint's son left this token behind?" Di Fan smiled bitterly. "Black Hell is the most mysterious. I'm not familiar with the Black Hell Saint's son. How can I guess? Since even the most knowledgeable Di Fan couldn't guess, it was even more impossible for others to guess." Holding the token in his hand, Yi Fei was in a dilemma. He couldn't figure out the Black Hell Saint's son's intentions, but he knew that the Black Hell Saint's son wouldn't leave this token for no reason. But he couldn't figure out the reason behind it. Although the battle strength of a shaman was inferior to a martial artist, the strangeness of shaman arts was even more mysterious and unpredictable than demonic arts and demonic arts. The two captive martial gods were only handed over to the few weapon shamans for the time it took to brew a cup of tea before Gong Zhu ran over excitedly and said, "Big brother, where is the stronghold of the hidden god palace? Out of the 10 trial cities, 9 of them have already become strongholds of the hidden god palace." "What?" The news brought by Gong Zhu shocked the human gods and Empyrean gods who rushed over. The two martial gods they interrogated were extremely stubborn. Furthermore, they had been cursed by the Dark Sky Sovereign. Once they revealed information about the Dark Sky Sovereign or the Hidden God Palace, the curse would erupt and completely destroy them. The memories and souls of the two traitor martial gods would be destroyed. The human gods and sky gods didn't get anything. They could only come again and remind Yi Fei. They didn't expect Gong Zhu's progress to be so smooth. Not only did he use witchcraft to suppress the Dark Heavenly Lord's curse, but he also obtained important information. Yi Fei's first reaction was disbelief. 9 out of the 10 trial cities are controlled by the Hidden God Palace? Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Gong Zhu shook his head solemnly. Brother, I wouldn't dare to joke about such important information. In order to resist the Dark Heavenly Lord's curse, we gathered a total of 300 weapon shamans to suppress them at the same time. That's right, we also obtained 2 pieces of information. The hidden god Earth Lord Zhou in the ancient era, he was secretly killed by the Dark Heavenly Lord. Also, the Dark Heavenly Lord's hidden god palace not only controls the trial cities, but it is also said that they have established an assassin organization called Black Prison on many human continents. They specialize in assassinating martial artists who have the potential to become gods. What did you say? Black Prison was established by the Dark Heavenly Lord. Di Fan, Fu Renjie, and the others all widened their eyes in shock. The Grand Supreme Dean was also shocked. I never understood why Black Prison wanted to assassinate Heavenly God Emperor Zhen Wu back then. It turns out that Black Prison is a puppet controlled by the Dark Heavenly Lord. It is the greatest hidden danger in our human race. The so-called Black Prison Edict should be the Dark Edict. It is the Dark Edict that ordered Black Prison to eliminate the human race's geniuses. The Guardian Elder's expression was gloomy. Not good. The Black Prison Saint's son left the Black Prison Edict to the Human Emperor when the Human Emperor entered the human race's impregnable pass. At that time, the Dark Heavenly Lord might have already seen through the Human Emperor's identity. With the Dark Heavenly Lord's strategy, he wouldn't have simply exposed the Human Emperor's identity. They will use Black Dungeon to continue doing things to the Human Emperor. The Sky Punishment Quasi-Emperor's complexion suddenly paled. Similarly, Yi Fei also paled. Since Black Prison was a spy controlled by Heavenly Venerate Darkness, he did not attack Yi Fei. On the other hand, the Black Prison Saint had secretly left behind a Black Prison token to hint to him. Yi Fei suddenly felt a huge sense of fear. Tian Fa Boundary Emperor, who was beside him, shouted with a trembling voice. Since Black Hell did not appear at the human race's impregnable pass, they must have gone to the Sky Martial Continent to capture our family members. They might even destroy the entire Sky Martial Continent. If I were Black Celestial Venerable N, I will definitely do this. This is the most effective method to attack the enemy. After all, as long as they captured Yi Fei's family members, Yi Fei wouldn't be able to fight against Heavenly Lord of Darkness with all his strength. There was even the possibility that Heavenly Lord of Darkness could threaten and use him. The human gods and heavenly gods' complexions also became extremely ugly. They had never understood just what method the Dark Heavenly Lord had used to incite so many of their subordinates to betray him. But as the hidden divine palace and Black Prison were exposed, the human gods and heavenly gods suddenly understood. The Dark Heavenly Lord must have used the hidden divine palace to obtain information on the martial god families. Then he had used Black Prison to go to the various continents and capture the important family members of the martial god. With such threats and promises, even the most loyal martial gods would have their wills shaken. The Sky Martial Continent is in danger. The family Yi is in danger. Heavenly Lord of Darkness, you are truly ruthless and sinister. Chapter 1930. No, I have to go back. I have to go back now. I don't care about the rest of the family Yi, but nothing can happen to my sister and Uncle Jian. These were Yi Fei's most important family members. He would not allow Dark Lord's scheme to succeed. At this moment, Yi Fei finally understood the meaning of the Black Prison token that the Black Prison Saint had left him. Those floating red dots were the exact number of people from Black Prison who had gone to Tianwu continent. And looking at how blurry the red dots were. Obviously, when Dark Lord had pretended to be Zhao Xinjian and exposed his identity, he must have sent a group of people to Tianwu continent to capture him. Among these assassins, the Black Prison Saint might be among them. When he thought of this, not only did Yi Fei's face turn pale, Fu Renjie, Lin Tianjiao, and Jing Wushou's faces also turned pale. The family Yi was in the North region, the Taishan Sanctuary was in the North region, the Fu family and the Lin family were also in the North region, and Zhao Yu and Zhao Qianjuan's Zhao family were all in the North region. We've waited so long for the revival of the Sage sect. Are we, the 6 sacred sects in the northern region, going to usher in an even more terrifying catastrophe? The guardian elder's face was pale. Even the stone puppet's expression became grim. Dark Lord. Yi Fei clenched his fists so tightly that his nails dug into his flesh. However, he forced himself to calm down. He picked up the Black Prison token again and looked at the red dots that were about to disappear. Yi Fei's eyes flickered with murderous intent. The red dots haven't disappeared yet. This means that the Black Prison assassins haven't left for too long. If I go all out, I might still be able to save the North region and the family Yi. Gongzhu, I don't care what method you use. Immediately set up the fastest and furthest starry sky teleportation array. Gongzhu's eyes trembled. Sovereign, if you want to set up such a teleportation array, you must sacrifice at least 1,000,000 people. What? 1,000,000 people? Yi, you're crazy. Where do we get so many people to sacrifice for you? Moreover, the enemy is right in front of us. If you leave, what if Dark Lord leads the sorcerer race to attack the impregnable pass? The human deity was very dissatisfied. Yi Fei, as a supreme martial artist and the human sovereign, how can you be so soft-hearted? A great man must be ruthless. Is your family more important, or is the entire human battlefield more important? The God of Heaven was also furious. He looked at Yi Fei with resentment. Yi Fei's cold eyes flashed with killing intent and anger. I know why you can't become the human sovereign. Because you guys are too vicious. More than 100,000 years ago, in order to protect the human race's impregnable pass, you didn't send a single soldier, and let the Magus tribe ravage the ancestral dragon continent. 30,000 years ago, you did it again. With his own strength, he did not send out a single soldier or clan, allowing the sky martial continent to fall. Is this how you become Earth Venerables? Is this how you protect the human race? But I'm different from you. I'm not a guard dog like you, and I'm not a coward like you. To me, if I can't even protect my family, then how can I be the human sovereign? Gongzhu, use all the magic crystals and spiritual veins I have on me for the sacrifice. The heaven and earth sacrifice was not only about using one's life. Sometimes, treasures like magic crystals could also be used as a substitute. At this moment, Yi Fei took out all the magic crystals and spiritual veins he had on him. The Guardian Elder, the Grand Supreme Dean, and the others followed suit and took out all the spiritual veins and treasures they had collected. Even the Dragon Turtle, under Xiao Chao's urging, reluctantly offered up a large number of spiritual stones that he had hidden with tears in his eyes. Gongzhu hurriedly led hundreds of gold-rank sorcerers who were good at spell formations. They used the magic crystals, spiritual veins, and treasures to build an unprecedentedly magnificent heaven and earth altar. At the top of the altar was an ancient stone door with a rock-like texture. This was the sorcerer's teleportation gate. Moreover, due to the sacrifice, this stone door's teleportation distance and speed were much faster than ordinary starry sky teleportation formations. Tianwu continent. When Yi Fei left, there had already been a huge change. The biggest change was that the once shattered dragon head and tail had miraculously reconnected with Tianwu continent and showed signs of becoming a complete ancestral dragon. The reason for such a change was naturally that the heavenly venerate's origin of Tianwu continent was not like other continents where it was concentrated in the human tribe's impregnable pass. For countless years, the origin of heart had been hidden in the ancestral dragon's body. Even though the sorcerer tribe had launched 2 wars, they were still unable to find the origin of heart. Even when the human demon cut off the dragon head and tail, he did not destroy the origin of heart. On the contrary, after experiencing 2 calamities, the origin of Tianwu continent had finally become active again after countless years of silence. It was as if the ancestral dragon was showing signs of awakening. The first to feel this change was the Dragon Head world. Originally, this place was desolate and barren. Most of it was like a desert. However, with the recovery of the origin of heaven and earth, the barren Dragon Head world actually had an intense spiritual chi that turned into a miracle of spiritual veins. This made countless demons in the Dragon Head world cheer endlessly. It also made many forces in the central region drool. But soon, there was also a huge change in the central region. Top geniuses and peerless geniuses that were rarely seen in thousands of years actually sprouted like bamboo shoots after a rain. Even 10 years ago, there was a strange phenomenon in the real martial sacred courtyard. It seemed that a peerless genius was born at this moment. Compared to the prosperity of the Central Plains, the situation in the northern region was still desolate. However, something major had happened recently. The martial god's forbidding formation that had once enveloped the entire northern region had actually shown signs of disintegration in the past few decades. Back then, the 7 martial gods of the 6 paths sacred sects had joined forces to create this restriction. Their fundamental goal was to prevent the northern region's spiritual chi from leaking out. It was also to give the desolate northern region's martial gods a chance to cultivate. There were only 2 possibilities for this restriction to be removed. First, the other martial gods would act together to break this restriction. Second, the origin of heaven and earth's origin would awaken and begin to destroy this restriction. Once the origin of heaven and earth's spiritual chi truly broke through the restriction, it would be proof that the broken Tianwu continent would return to the ancient era, the glorious ancestral dragon continent. This also meant that a great era for the Tianwu continent's martial gods would begin. I really didn't expect that such a remote place like the Tianwu continent would not place the origin of heaven and earth in the human battlefield. Instead, it was hidden in some corner of the continent. If we can find it, not only will we be able to enslave all the martial gods born on this continent, but we will also be able to use the origin of heaven and earth's origin. Endless Empyrean origin. Chapter 1931. He was originally expressionless and cold like a block of ice. But when he heard the Hell Master say that he wanted to seize the origin source of the sky martial continent and enslave all the warriors in the continent, the Black Hell Saint's expression changed. But even this slight change in his smile couldn't escape the Hell Master's powerful divine sense. He immediately turned his head and stared coldly at the Black Hell Saint. "Saint, what are you thinking about?" "Hell Master, I'm thinking about whether it's right for us to betray the human race and join the Dark Lord." Slap! The Hell Overlord suddenly slapped the Black Hell Saint's face and scolded coldly, "Bastard, so what if you betrayed us? We became assassins for the sake of benefit. Isn't it obvious that we will follow whoever gives us more benefits?" The Black Hell Saint coldly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and insisted, "When I entered the Assassin Palace, I saw the previous Hell Master's handwritten order. He said that killing is not for benefits, but for dignity and honor. Even assassins must have their own creed and use their lives to abide by it." "That's right. That old bastard did say that. So he died and turned into bones on the ground with the hidden god Earth Sovereign. From then on, I knew that assassins have to do it for benefits. A cold smile appeared on the Hellmaster's face. He then pointed at the martial god's seal that enveloped the entire North region. His tone was filled with boundless killing intent. Live for benefits, die for benefits. This is the new creed of Black Hell. What bullshit honor. Let it go to hell. As long as the Dark Lord can give us enough benefits, so what if we betray the human race? Anyway, we're not the only ones who betrayed. Saint, prove that you're loyal to the Dark Lord. The time for loyalty has come. Now, I order you to enter the North region and kill everyone except Yi Shanshan and Yi Jian's family Yi. Remember, men, women, old and young, leave no one alive. The Black Hell Saint's eyes flashed. He forcefully concealed the shock in his heart and said, Hell Master, please reconsider. I know Yi Fei. It's fine if we provoke him, but if we provoke his family, Yi Fei will definitely become more terrifying than a demon. Demon? There's only one demon in this world, and that's the Dark Lord. Under the rule of the Dark Lord, you either obey or die. Saint, do you really think I don't know that you've secretly contacted the human emperor's palace? Swoosh. The Black Hell assassins who were originally standing around suddenly spread out. Their dense murderous aura formed a large net and instantly surrounded the Black Hell Saint. Prison Master, I can swear that I've only assassinated a survivor of the human emperor palace, but I definitely didn't leak any information. The Black Hell Saint's expression was calm as he swore on the spot. This caused the Hell Master to hesitate, wondering if he had wrongly accused the Black Hell Saint. At this moment, a graceful figure walked out from the shadow assassins. She bowed respectfully and said, Hell Master, I can prove that the Black Hell Saint's son did not reveal any information to the human Emperor Palace. However, he purposely left a Black Hell token to the Guardian Elder of the Six Paths Sacred Sect. With that token alone, it's enough to lock onto our position. The Black Hell Prison Master's eyes were extremely cold. Chen Mengyao, you betrayed me. The Black Hell Saint looked at Chen Mengyao in disbelief. After knowing that the Black Hell wasn't just an assassin organization, but a puppet controlled by the Dark Lord, he hesitated for a long time. Finally, he decided to abide by the assassin creed and stand on the side of the human race. But the Black Hell Saint's saint was a step too late. When he found the Guardian Elder, Chen Mengyao was secretly following behind him. Left with no choice, the Black Hell Saint could only hurriedly leave a Black Hell token and leave. He didn't expect Chen Mengyao to discover this. Suddenly, Chen Mengyao came out. The Black Hell Master's eyes were filled with killing intent and anger. Saint, you're the most important person in my life. You are the person I value the most. I even planned to pass the Hell Overlord position to you in the future. Now, it seems that you don't have this fortune. Chen Mengyao, from now on, you are the saintess of my Black Hell. Now, I order you to lead the Black Hell assassins into the North region and kill the family Yi. Yes, Hell Master. I've been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. Chen Mengyao's face was cold. There was a hideous scar on her beautiful face. It was also this scar that changed Chen Mengyao's personality. She became cold and bloodthirsty, and even more unscrupulous. Yi Fei, Fu Renjie, Lin Tianjiao, just you wait. I'll let you know that I, Chen Mengyao, am one of the 4 sky prides of the North region. Moreover, I'll only be more powerful than you. I'll be more expensive and more powerful. Follow the saint and bring slaughter back to this world. The other shadow assassins didn't even blink. They were as cold as killing machines. Chen Mengyao, on the other hand, was in high spirit. She had a kind of morbid excitement of returning home in glory. Kill. Just as Chen Mengyao left with the shadow assassin, a terrifying hurricane suddenly erupted in the sky above the chaotic ocean. It was the Black Hell's Hell Overlord. He was going to kill the Black Hell Saint's son personally to clean up the mess. The Black Hell Saint smiled sadly. The moment he was betrayed, he had already turned into a shadow and disappeared into the clouds. Die! The Hell Master shouted coldly. Only his voice could be heard, but no one could see him. The surrounding clouds shattered, and the Black Hell Saint's figure was no longer in the clouds. The Hell Master's voice suddenly changed. Damn it, you've actually comprehended the strongest ultimate killing secret skill from the Massacre Palace. The ultimate killing secret skill was the most powerful assassination skill in the Black Prison. It was also the most powerful Earthly Venerate cultivation technique of the hidden god Earthly Venerate. However, such a cultivation technique was hidden by the hidden god Earthly Venerate in the Black Prison's most sacred Massacre Palace. Without sufficient opportunities and a murderous heart, even a martial god would not be able to learn it. Such a secret skill could allow an assassin in the demigod realm to have the possibility of assassinating a martial god. Swoosh! A terrifying spear radiance suddenly appeared in the void. The spear radiance flashed and disappeared. It could even hide the light of a martial skill. Even though the Hell Master was a lower-rank martial god, his expression changed when he saw the ultimate killing secret skill mastered by the Black Hell Saint. He could only rely on his martial god's strength to attack the surrounding clouds and void in an attempt to force the Black Hell Saint out of his hiding place. As long as the Black Hell Saint was forced out, even if it was just a shadow, as the king of assassins in the Black Hell, the Hell Master was confident that he could kill the Black Hell Saint in one blow. Fine, before the Saintess kills everyone in the Yi clan, I'll play with you, Holy Son. Of course, if you're willing to hand over the ultimate massacre that you've learned, I'll consider letting you die a quick death. Bam! As he spoke, the Hell Master seemed to discover something, and his body suddenly turned into a terrifying ghostly image as he rushed into the ocean from the sky. A bloody and cold light exploded out, causing the surrounding 10,000 meters of ocean to explode. At the same time, a ball of flesh and blood flew out of the ocean. Unfortunately, it wasn't the Black Hell Saint that the Hell Master was looking for. It was the corpse of a merman. Chapter 1932. The fact that the family Yi was able to send out mermen to monitor the outer seas was not because of a whim. Not long ago, the family Yi had received a mysterious letter that was brought back by a strange bird from the starry sky. In this letter, the family Yi knew in advance that Black Jail was about to attack the family Yi. In the beginning, many of the elders of the family Yi did not believe it. After all, the family Yi and Black Jail did not have any interactions. However, considering Yi Fei's character of causing trouble everywhere, Yi Jian decided to believe it and arranged for the surrendered North Sea mermen to enter the outer seas to investigate. The family Yi was shocked. Not only did Black Jail want to attack Yi Fei and kill everyone in the family Yi, but more importantly, the person leading the team this time was Chen Mengyao, one of the 4 heavenly prides of the northern region. What made the Yi family even more fearful was that the Black Prison assassins that were dispatched this time were not only demigods, but the prison master among them was a real martial god. If it were not for the fact that the great era had begun in the Tianwu continent with the revival of spiritual qi and the emergence of talented martial artists, even martial emperors, who were gradually recovering under the influence of the heavenly venerate source energy, the family Yi would have been in complete chaos in the face of the sudden attack of demigod assassins. Family head, what should we do? Please give us orders. In the end, many of the elders of the family Yi looked at Yi Jian, who was sitting on the main seat. The family Yi was currently the strongest family Yi in the northern region. Not only had family head Yi Jian reached the quasi-emperor level, the other elders of the family Yi had also broken through to the martial saint and martial emperor level. Of course, the reason why the family Yi's strength had improved so much was because of the large amount of resources Yi Fei had brought back. The divine fiend formation spirit, Third He, also contributed greatly. Other than Sanhai, the family Yi also raised a flood dragon called Little Hay in the pond. This was the first flood dragon that Yi Fei and Xiao Chao had subdued. It was a variant of the frost dragon. However, when Little Hay was subdued, Little Hay was already an adult. It was too big for the beast mark space to contain it. Yi Fei could only throw Little Black into the pond to help the family Yi guard the house. Of course, from then on, Little Black was able to live a good life where everything was provided to it. It ate and drank to its heart's content all year round, and was also fed a large amount of spirit pills that Yi Fei brought back. Little Hay was now bigger than a mountain range. When Yi Jian heard that the black prison assassins were going to harm the family Yi, the first thing that came to his mind was Little Hay. Pass down my order. Family Yi, old, young, women, and children must all sit on Blackie's back. Elders below the martial sage realm, retreat. Those above the martial royal realm, stay with me and face the enemy. Yi Jian suddenly stood up. Yi Jian had been in a high position for many years, but it did not cause him to lose his fighting spirit. Yi Jian was still the same as when he was in the Black Rock City, full of ambition and pride. Even though Yi Jian knew that he was going to die, he still decided to stay and fight. He wanted to protect the weaker members of the clan as they escaped. This was also the responsibility that Yi Jian had to bear as the family head. When they heard Yi Jian's order, the expressions of the other Yi Jian's elders changed. However, they all knew that Yi Jian had a bad temper. Once he made a decision, even 9 bulls would not be able to pull him back. What should we do? It doesn't matter if we die, but Yi Jian is young master's most respected elder. If something happens to Yi Jian, how are we going to answer to young master in the future? Yi Fei did not know that he was already a legend in the family Yi. As the founder of the family Yi, he was respected by countless members of the family Yi. However, Yi Fei was too young. He had not even cultivated for 100 years. It was obviously inappropriate to call him old master. Therefore, the family Yi simply called Yi Fei young master. At this moment, when they saw that Yi Jian was going to personally lead everyone to stay behind to cover the retreat, the elders could not help but feel secretly worried. They were afraid that something would happen to Yi Jian and that they would not be able to answer to Yi Fei. However, there were also smart elders such as Yi Jian. They secretly instructed the elders, "We can't persuade family head Yi, but young master's sister can. We can ask for help from the 6 sacred sects." That's right. Our family can't stop the assassins from the Black Prison. However, there are still the 6 sacred sects and the 4 great nations in the northern region. There are also many martial saints and martial emperors. They are our greatest reinforcements. Although there was no order from Yi Jian, the family Yi was no longer a small family in the Black Rock City. As the largest force in the northern region, the family Yi's prestige was not to be violated, even if it was a demigod. Soon, the news that the Black Prison was about to attack the family Yi spread throughout the northern region. The family Yi's teleportation formation immediately lit up like a light. The first to arrive was the king of the northern ocean country, Zhu Zhen. Behind him were the important ministers of the northern ocean country, the 4 heavenly kings, Qin Bing and the couple Beigong Chun. Although Zhu Zhen and the others were not very talented, with the arrival of the Great Era and the desolate beast pills that Yi Fei brought back, Zhu Zhen and the others had stepped into the martial emperor and boundary emperor realm. Of course, the most eye-catching one was Chen Feng. He was once the most inconspicuous and least talented son of the Western Heavenly King. With his own efforts, he broke through the martial saint and martial emperor realms step by step. Now, he had even broken through to the earthly boundary emperor realm. However, this time, the strongest one was not Chen Feng, but 3 young and beautiful girls. One of them was wearing a green dress and looked gentle and graceful, like a fairy who had walked out of a painting. When they saw this girl rushing over, many young martial artists were infatuated. It's Yi Shanshan's fairy Yi, the palace master of the Saint Palace of the Six Sacred Sects. It is said that the holy ice technique that fairy Yi cultivates has reached the acme of perfection. She can completely freeze the sea for thousands of miles. Oh my God, isn't that the female overlord of the Zhao family, Zhao Xinian? I heard that she joined the evil demon palace. She once killed a martial emperor family that had proposed to her from the northern region all the way back to the central region. Suddenly, another young talent screamed, as if he had seen something terrifying. This also made Zhao Xinian, who had rushed over, blush. She lowered her head in shame and anger. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not violent, it's just that my gentleness is not obvious enough. Boom. Although that was what she said, the 100,000-kilogram machete in Zhao Shinian's hand had already whistled through the air, smashing the martial artist who had exposed her until he foamed at the mouth. Before the battle had even begun, he had already fainted on the ground. Sister Xinian, you're still so violent. The last one to appear was a girl in white. Her appearance was not outstanding, but she gave people a very comfortable feeling. Her body was not like Yi Shanshan and Zhao Xinian, who had too many decorations. She was just wearing a simple white dress, and her waterfall-like hair was casually tied back with a red ribbon. The most eye-catching thing was the girl's sword-like temperament. She stood there, as if her whole person had transformed into a divine sword. Chapter 1933. Chen Mengyao had become the new saintess of the Black Dungeon, and was ordered to lead the shadow assassins to destroy the family Yi. She should be in high spirits and boundless glory. But at this moment, seeing the rallying power of the family Yi, as well as the countless martial emperors and quasi-emperors in the family Yi, Chen Mingyao's face suddenly became incomparably ugly. The expressions of those indifferent shadow assassins also became serious. Although they were also demigods, assassins were not good at frontal combat. Moreover, these demigods were only the weakest demigods who had condensed the divine domain and had not comprehended the laws. Even if there were more than a dozen of them, against the hundreds of thousands or millions of martial artists in Yi City, even a demigoddess's strength seemed so insignificant. What made these shadow assassins feel even more troubled was that there were martial emperors in the family Yi, and not one, but 3 martial emperors. Among them, the white-clothed martial emperor only used 2 rays of light to shatter the clouds and discover their traces of concealment. This eyesight made these demigod realm shadow assassins feel a sense of trepidation. Could you be Yi Fei's sister, Yi Shanshan? Chen Mengyao stood in midair, a hideous scar on her beautiful face, which was particularly terrifying. At least Zhu Zhen, Beigong Chun, Qin Bing and the other martial artists who knew Chen Mengyao were all shocked. Who would have thought that Fairy Mengyao, who was once one of the 4 heavens pridelings of the northern region, would become such a sinister and cold bloodthirsty assassin? She not only betrayed the entire northern region, betrayed the entire human race, and now even wanted to destroy the family Yi. And the family Yi was the most sacred place in the entire northern region. Although the family Yi had never planned to establish a country to dominate, but at this moment, the family Yi had undoubtedly become the overlord of the northern region. Since it was the overlord, it naturally had the spirit of an overlord. While instructing Yi Jian to lead the martial artists of the northern domain to defend the family Yi city, Yi Shanshan, Zhao Xinian and Yi Shaochan had already soared into the sky, shouting at Chen Mengyao, "This is the family Yi, not a place for you to behave atrociously. Chen Mengyao, you have already been expelled from the northern domain and become an abandoned child. Do you want to make an enemy of the northern region and the family Yi? 3 little bitches, you don't have the right to talk to me. Besides, what did I do wrong? I, Chen Mengyao, am destined to be a phoenix in the sky. I am 10 times, no, 100 times nobler than you little bitches. Attack Yi City and kill everyone from family Yi except for Yi Jian. These three this saintess will personally capture that little bitch. Since their whereabouts had been exposed, Chen Mengyao still gave the order to kill to prevent any unexpected event. The shadow assassins who heard the order remained silent and released their murderous aura. They turned into countless shadows and charged towards Kargalik. Fight! Yi Jian roared. He held up a magnificent golden sword. The strong sword light blocked out the sun. Behind Yi Jian, all the martial emperor elders of the family Yi were bursting with fighting spirit. However, they did not really charge forward to fight with the shadow assassins. Instead, they quickly stood at a certain location in Kargalik. Boom! A dark sky suddenly appeared in the sky above Kargalik. In the sky, there was a divine evil formation spirit dressed in black armor and carrying a huge battle axe. Little assassins, how dare you come to Kargalik and behave atrociously? Do you really think I, Sanhai Pui, your grandpa He, is a charcoal burner? Take my axe. A massive axe light tore through the skies. This was not an ordinary axe light, but a pure condensed heavenly baleful energy. And heavenly baleful energy was an absolute nightmare for a martial artist. As long as a trace of heavenly baleful energy entered one's body, the difficulty of crossing tribulation would increase by 10 times. Xuelingzi once had the divine evil in his body. When the martial emperor tribulation turned into a martial emperor tribulation, he was chopped into smoke on the spot. Although the shadow assassins were demigods, when they saw that the family Ye's defensive array not only had a martial emperor formation spirit, but also the most terrifying divine evil formation spirit, they were terrified. Fear was written all over their faces. What was more terrifying was that the divine evil formation spirit could not only attack on its own, but it could also absorb martial artists' energy to make the divine evil even stronger and more terrifying. At this moment, many of the family Ye's martial artists were occupying the most crucial array I of the formation spirit. They were constantly transferring their genuine vitality into the array. The genuine vitality of one martial emperor was not terrifying, but the genuine vitality of 10, 100, or even 1,000 martial emperors could make the divine evil formation spirit more powerful in an instant. The other martial artists from the northern region who had come to participate in the battle did not want to be outdone. They also did not rush out to fight. Instead, they used the divine evil formation spirit as a cover. One after another, they formed military formations. Then, the 4 monarchs of the northern region, countless sects, and the disciples led by Lin Sun and Yang Shao of the Taishan Holy Land all activated their formations. These formations were focused on releasing martial arts technique. Rumble. The martial arts light of dozens of martial artists was not terrifying, but tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or even millions of martial artists released their martial arts techniques together. The martial arts light formed was enough to drown the world. The shadow assassins were so scared that they did not even bother to assassinate. They just panicked and opened their divine domains to block the attack. This was a violent martial arts impact. Then, a violent explosion came from the end of the sky. It was the figures of Chen Mengyao and Yi Shaochan fighting. One was cold and bloodthirsty, the other was as cold as a sword. The terrifying killing intent and the dazzling sword light, like divine dragons intertwining and tearing at each other, caused the world to collapse. Zhao Xinian, who had wanted to come forward to help, could only place the huge machete in front of her, forming a several thousand-meter-long machete mountain to block the terrifying impact caused by the battle between the two. Holy Ice Art! Yi Shanshan also made her move. She activated her ice bloodline, and combined it with the Holy Ice Art. The collapsing sky suddenly froze completely, forming a world of ice thousands of miles wide. All the shadow assassins, including Chen Mengyao and Yi Shaochan, were temporarily frozen inside. The martial arts of the 6 paths sacred sex? Unfortunately, with your little strength, you can't stop me. Chen Mengyao sneered. Suddenly her graceful body exploded from the ice mountain, charging directly at Yi Shanshan, who was still releasing cold air. Tai Chi 4 Phases Sword. Under the ice mountain, a dazzling sword light suddenly rushed out. The sword light turned into a huge Tai Chi above the Tai Chi. Yi Shaochan wielded a divine sword, brandishing endless sword light. The sword light suddenly emitted the roars of divine beasts, and turned into the White Tiger Divine Sword, Vermilion Bird Divine Sword, Azure Dragon Divine Sword, and Black Tortoise Divine Sword. 4 terrifying divine sword lights formed a sword formation at the same time and slashed towards Chen Mengyao. Chen Mengyao revealed a cold smile. She suddenly turned around and extended 10 poisonous claws, instantly shattering the divine swords. However, an even more terrifying divine sword light appeared in the midst of the shattered sword lights. Domain. Sword Dao. Rumble. Chapter 1934. Chen Mengyao looked at the 7 bloody holes in her body in shock. The 7 bloody holes were arranged in a pattern of 7 stars. It was the 7-star sword that Yi Fei had yet to deduce. Clearly, Yi Shaochan had not only mastered Yi Fei's Taiji sword Dao, but she had also surpassed him. She had completely deduced Yi Fei's Taiji sword Dao to an unfathomable and terrifying level. If Yi Shaochan were to continue deducing it like this, if Yi Shaochan continued to deduce, it was very likely that she would break an unprecedented record in this world. She was not an earthly venerable, but she had created an earthly venerable martial technique. Immemorial celestial technique? No, just relying on the immemorial heavenly technique. You are just a martial emperor. It is impossible for you to break my deity domain, unless you are also a heaven-defying genius like Yi Fei. Chen Mengyao suddenly screamed frantically. Her attacks became even more frenzied, and she became even more fearless. Black Dungeon's assassination technique, when executed by this crazy woman, actually had a kind of violent and morbid beauty. One had to admit that Chen Mengyao was worthy of being one of the 4 sky prides of the North region, even though she wasn't as good as Yi Fei, Fu Renjie, or Lin Tianjiao. However, this woman was unscrupulous. She was extremely good at enduring and currying favor. She had actually taken 1 step at a time to reach the demigod realm. Her combat power was even comparable to a half-step demon. Under normal circumstances, even if the family Yi was prepared, it would be very difficult for them to withstand Chen Mengyao's crazy attacks. Unfortunately, she had met Yi Shaochan, the sword goddess who was so tough that even Yi Fei would be embarrassed. At this time, Yi Shaochan had even surpassed her master, Yi Fei, in terms of swordsmanship. She had reached a level where she was better than her master. Yi Shaochan was calm in the face of Chen Mengyao's crazy counterattack. She only tried her best to release the power of despair. Her sword light was not as strong as Yi Fei's. Her sword light was not as strong and explosive. However, Yi Shaochan's sword was pure. Pure sword heart. Once the sword was out, 7 stars surrounded it. It was filled with the magnificence of celestial phenomena and the beauty of a divine sword. Bam! There was another fierce collision. This time, Chen Mengyao looked crazy. Her ferocious face had a trace of morbid distortion. I don't accept this. If I can't compare to Yi Fei, then I'll accept it. Could it be that after sacrificing so much and giving up so much, I still can't compare to a disciple of his? Sky Ghost split space. An ugly and gloomy ghost face suddenly appeared behind Chen Mengyao. It opened its bloody mouth and rushed forward. 7 stars illuminating the moon. Yi Shaochan's sword transformed into stars as she took 7 steps forward. Every step she took broke the void and was dazzling. Then, countless stars merged into the sword light, raising the power of the 7 stars Tai Chi sword to another level. It even shattered Chen Mengyao's god domain. I won't accept this. Yi Xiaochan, just you wait. Chen Mengyao walked away with her hair draped over her shoulders. Her eyes were even redder and more ferocious than a ghost. Suddenly, she retreated instead of advancing. In midair, she had already shattered into countless shadows that rushed madly in all directions. Some fled into the shadows, some fled into the darkness, some hid on the ground, and some merged into the void. This was Black Prison's most exquisite fleeing shadow technique. Although Chen Mengyao couldn't hide in someone else's shadow like the Black Hell Saint, her broken shadows still gave Yi Xiaochan a lot of trouble when she was trying to kill her real body. Taking advantage of this confusion, Chen Mengyao ruthlessly abandoned all the shadows and disappeared. There was no trace of her. In the sky above the chaotic ocean, the expression of the Black Prison Lord, who was hiding and assassinating the Black Prison Saint, changed drastically. Damn traitor, did you inform the family Yi in advance? Otherwise, why would the family Yi prepare in advance? The ones who really betrayed Black Prison are you guys. First-class assassins respect honor. Only the lowest-class assassins will chase after benefits. The Black Prison Saint's figure could not be seen in the sky. Only his words could be heard from all directions. That's right, after realizing that he could not pass information to Yi Fei, the Black Prison Saint decided to do the opposite and secretly pass information to the family Yi. This way, even if the family Yi was attacked and massacred by Black Prison, the Black Prison Saint would not have to worry that Yi Fei would seek revenge from him. This was not because the Black Prison Saint was kind-hearted, but because he was afraid of Yi Fei's perverted madness. However, the Black Prison Saint had neglected one point, which was the Black Prison Lord's combat experience as the King of Assassins. As he was speaking, the Black Hell Master suddenly ignited his martial god essence blood. His strength instantly rose from the lower martial god realm to the intermediate martial god realm. Obviously, after knowing that Chen Mengyao's assassination failed, the Black Prison Lord became desperate. At this moment, he would rather pay a certain price to kill the Black Prison Saint as soon as possible and then escape. Shadow Demon Kill. In the sky, the Black Prison Lord's body suddenly exploded into countless shadows. They came from different directions and attacked the Black Prison Saint's voice. Haha, found you! Traitor, die! The Middle Martial God's powerful attack range, and the gap between their realms allowed the Black Prison Lord to use a secret technique and his years of experience as the King of Assassins to successfully locate the Black Prison Saint's position. A terrifying black shadow instantly pounced forward. The Black Prison Saint's face instantly turned ugly. Oh no, the Massacre Divine Realm! Bam! The Massacre Divine Realm had just appeared when it was shattered by the Black Prison Lord. The Black Prison Saint's body was like a kite with a broken string as he spat out blood and fell from the sky. Kill. The Black Prison Lord did not wait for the Black Prison Saint's body to fall. The shadows in the sky gathered again and formed into his original body. He once again attacked to take the Black Prison Saint's head. The Black Prison Saint's body that was falling suddenly stopped. He suddenly turned into a shadow and blended into the glaring sunlight. Where are you going? You spat out blood and are injured. Even the ultimate massacre can't completely hide your aura. Die. The Black Prison Lord sneered and was about to continue his pursuit. Boom. The clouds in the sky suddenly exploded. Countless clouds spread to both sides like huge waves and slammed onto the Black Hell Saint's son and Black Hell Prison Overlord. The Black Hell Saint's son let out a muffled groan. His shadow was almost destroyed by the sudden appearance of the air current. Even someone as strong as the Black Prison Lord was blown away by the airflow. He could not help but look at a door that gradually appeared in the sky. It was a simple and unadorned stone door. At this moment, countless Sorcerer Tribe characters appeared. Then, a furious figure walked out from the stone door. Black Prison, don't you dare touch my family, Yi! Boom! Chapter 1935. Oh no, Yi Fei is not dead, and he's here. Could it be that Dark Lord has failed? He was after all an overlord of an assassin. Although the Black Hell prison master was in fear, he did not lose his composure. On the contrary, the moment he saw Yi Fei, he roared and his body exploded, forming countless broken shadows that rushed in all directions, trying to escape from the Tianwu continent. Yi Fei did not make a move to deal with the Black Hell prison master. He only took a step to the side of the heavily injured Black Hell Saint. Black Hell Saint, thank you. Although the sorcerer god's stone gate was very fast, he was still a step too late. If it wasn't for the Black Hell Saint holding back the Black Hell prison master, Yi Fei did not dare to imagine what would have happened to the family Yi and the North region. Suppressing the injuries in his body with a complicated expression, the Black Hell Saint's cold eyes suddenly flashed with urgency. Yi Fei understood this urgency. He smiled and suddenly raised his hand, shooting out a ray of starlight. At this moment, the Black Hell prison master had already escaped into the starry sky. Just as he was about to leave the Tianwu continent, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his body. He looked down in fear, only to see a ray of light condensed from starlight. Tens of thousands of meters away, it shattered his divine soul, followed by his entire body. Bang! The martial god's body exploded in the starry sky, forming a terrifying bloody light. The prison master is dead. It's him, he's back. That lunatic, even Dark Lord, could not kill him. In the deep sea, a beautiful figure was hiding and swimming like a poisonous snake. Chen Mengyao did not even dare to reveal the slightest bit of her aura. The Black Hell Saint, who was directly facing Yi Fei, did not even dare to breathe loudly. He stared at Yi Fei, not saying a word. Yi Fei stared at the Black Hell Saint, not saying a word. Suddenly, the two laughed at the same time. Black Hell Saint, do you still want to assassinate me? Yi Fei asked with a smile. If there is such a possibility, I will definitely assassinate you. If the Black Hell can assassinate martial gods, why can't I assassinate a prime? The Black Hell Saint asked. Even though he was heavily injured, he was still full of confidence. It was not the confidence of a martial artist, but of an assassin. This confidence made Yi Fei helpless. But soon, he replied with fighting spirit, if there is such a day, I will die with no regrets. But you have helped the family Yes, take this heavenly origin. If you want to assassinate me, you must at least break through to the martial god realm. Black Jail was a shady assassin organization. After the hidden god temple betrayed the human race, it was basically impossible for the Black Jail Saint to enter the origin temple. Yi Fei then remembered to give the Black Hell Saint's son the heavenly venerate's origin that Manshun had given him. It could be considered as returning the favor. As for the 10 heavenly spirit pearls given to him by God, Yi Fei gave them to Fu Renjie, Lin Tianjiao, Jing Wushou, Zhao Qianjun, and Dongfang Yu to increase the strength of the human emperor palace. Of course, Yi Fei also kept 5 for Xia Jun, Luo Shi, Yi Jian, Yi Shanshan, and Yi Shaochan. Jing Wushou and Zhao Qianjun also did not use the heavenly spirit pearls. They decided to ask Yi Fei to bring their heavenly spirit pearls back to the Tianwu continent for Zhao Xinian and Jing Xiaoman. It's the heavenly origin. Human Emperor Yi, you are really a strange person. Perhaps this is the reason why you can become the human emperor and I can only be an assassin. Tightly holding the heavenly origin given to him by Yi Fei, the Black Hell Saint's expression became more complicated. But his pride as an assassin made him choose to turn his back to Yi Fei instead of walking with Yi Fei. The Hell Master is dead. I also have the heavenly origin. It's time to rebuild the Black Hell. Human Emperor Yi, as long as the Tianwu continent has you, the Black Hell will never set foot here. This was the Black Hell Saint's promise before he left. But his words were more like a kind of gratitude. He was grateful that Yi Fei did not care about the past and gave him the heavenly origin. Yi Fei did not say anything. It was always lonely to be invincible. It was also good to have an opponent like the Black Hell Saint. The strength of the family Yi was also beyond Yi Fei's expectations. He originally thought that without his return, the family Yi would not be able to resist the attack of the Black Hell. But in fact, the family Yi was no longer a weak family that needed support, but an uncrowned king that dominated the northern region. Since Chen Mengyao escaped, the remaining shadow assassins were no match for Yi Xiaochan, Yi Shanshan, and Zhao Xinian. Soon, these shadow assassins were drowned in the hundreds of thousands, or even millions of northern region martial artists. Just as the numerous martial artists of Yi City were shouting and cheering excitedly, suddenly Yi Shanshan and Yi Xiaochan's body trembled. They simultaneously felt a powerful aura that made their souls tremble, sweeping across the entire Tianwu continent. That aura was so familiar. Then, in the sky above Yi City, a young figure in a black purple-gold robe appeared. "Brother!" Seeing this figure, Yi Shanshan's eyes reddened. Suddenly, she was no longer the ice goddess from before. She wiped her tears and threw herself into Yi Fei's arms. Countless young martial artists felt their hearts ache. Then, what was even more shocking was that even Yi Xiaochan, who was as indifferent as a fairy, suddenly changed from a goddess of swords to a little girl next door. She also threw herself into Yi Fei's arms. "Master, I didn't embarrass you. I protected the family Yi." "Good, good, as expected of my disciple. It seems that in the future, even without my care, the family Yi will dominate and continue to develop." Yi Fei was very gratified. Unknowingly, the once weak family Yi had become so strong. He was very worried on the way here, but now it seemed that it was just a false alarm. "Brat, what nonsense are you talking about? What do you mean by without your care? Let me tell you, whether the family Yi is strong or weak, this will always be your home." "That's right. What trouble did you get into again? Why did the demigods and martial gods come out to deal with us?" Only Yi Jian could speak to Yi Fei like this. After not seeing Yi Fei for many years, Yi Jian could not help but be a little worried. He was not afraid of the destruction of the family, but was afraid that Yi Fei had suffered some grievances outside. Yi Fei was touched, but also could not help blushing. He did not know what to say. Zhao Xinian, who was next to him, giggled. Then she looked at Yi Fei with great curiosity. "Yi Fei, what you just released, was the divine power of the martial god. Is it very powerful to break through to the martial god level?" Yi Fei smiled, shaking his head. "I didn't break through to the martial god level, but the witch god level, which is equivalent to the supreme level." "What supreme level?" Clang! As soon as Yi Fei finished speaking, Yi Jian's hand suddenly trembled, and the golden sword fell to the ground in shock. Chapter 1936. Supreme Martial Artist. Oh my God, a real supreme martial artist has appeared in our northern region. Boom! As the news of Yi Fei's breakthrough to the supreme martial artist realm spread, the entire Yi City was in an uproar. Many people looked at Yi Fei with admiration. Zhu Zhen, Beigong Chun, Qin Bing, and his old friends in the northern region were happy for Yi Fei, but they were also sad. In the past, Yi Fei was not much stronger than them, and their potential was not much weaker than the four great geniuses. But now, among the four great geniuses of the northern region, even Chen Mengyao, whose temperament had changed, had broken through to the demigod realm, while they were still lingering between the martial emperor realm and the quasi-emperor realm. Did we really make the wrong choice back then? If only we could have walked out of the northern region and the North Sea like Yi Fei. Zhu Zhen and Qin Bing were smiling, but their smiles were full of bitterness and reluctance. At this time, Lin Xin and Yang Xiao came over and said with an open-minded smile, "There is no turning back for what happened back then, but we can still look forward. The Taishan Holy Land has stabilized, and the new saint has appeared. It's time for us to go out and find our own opportunities." Zhu, you can come with us when the time comes, provided that you are willing to let go of your current status and power. Zhu expression changed. He was now the king of the Northern Ocean Kingdom and had great power. How could he be willing to let go of his position suddenly? But when Qin Bing heard Lin Sun and Yang Zhao's words, his heart, which had been silent for many years, was rekindled. Then, the three of them went to find Chun Feng and walked over to Yi Fei. "Greetings, Supreme Martial Artist." Qin Bing and the other two cupped their hands at Yi Fei. What answered them was Yi Fei giving them 3 heavy bear hugs. "Bullshit, Supreme Martial Artist. If you treat me as a brother, don't call me that. By the way, where are Luo Shi and Xia Jun? Why don't I see them?" Zhao Si suddenly laughed. "You're talking about junior brother Xia and junior brother Luo? They're still in the Six Paths sacred sect, being trained by the elders of their respective sacred palaces. They said that if they don't break through to Martial Emperor, they'll be locked in there for the rest of their lives. By the way, Martial Uncle Jing's family is also in the Six Path sacred sects. Master, I plan to move Divine Yi sect into the northern region as well. What do you think?" Yi Shaochan stayed by Yi Fei's side. Even though she had grown up and become a goddess of war, she still liked to act like a little girl to Yi Fei. Jiao. Yi Fei was also speechless. He felt that as a master, he had no dignity at all. If he were the one acting coquettishly to the Nephilim King would definitely kick him in the ass. And seeing that Yi Fei, who had just returned, was already hugging 2 beauties, even the notoriously violent female bandit Zhao Xinian showed a rare gentleness in front of Yi Fei. The countless young talents of the northern region were really jealous from the bottom of their hearts. If looks could kill supreme martial artists, they definitely wouldn't mind punching Yi Fei full of holes. Yi Fei also quickly noticed the rising stars of the northern region. When he discovered that the realms of these young talents were generally between martial sage and half-martial emperor, he frowned slightly. Although the great era has begun, it seems that the spiritual qi of the northern region hasn't completely recovered yet. With such little strength, how can we compete with the peerless geniuses of the middle state in the future? Forget it. Since I'm the human emperor and I'm from the northern region, I should do my part for the northern region. From now on, I'll rebuild the northern region. Even if it's not the ancient times, I'll at least restore the northern region to the level of spiritual qi of the ancient times. Boom! In the sky above Yi City, Yi Fei sat cross-legged alone. He opened his golden divine treasure, and the terrifying mental strength of a battle shaman formed a large invisible net that enveloped the entire northern region. Then, Yi Fei began to search for the heavenly venerate origins hidden in the core of the northern region. He wasn't going to collect the Empyrean essences, but rather, he was going to gather the scattered Empyrean essences. He was going to gather them in Leaf City, the 6 Tao sacred sects, and the chaotic sea outside the northern domain. Supreme Martial Artist wants to completely connect the northern region with the outer sea in one go and establish a new northern region. It's comparable to the ancient times, the northern region that produced geniuses in large numbers. Yi Fei's actions shocked all the martial emperors and quasi-emperors of the northern region. Even the gravekeeper old man, who had rushed back, was shocked by Yi Fei's means of transforming the world. This was no longer the means of a human, but the means of a god. Yi Fei was the only true god in the hearts of all the martial artists in the northern region. Finally, after an unknown period of time, the scattered heavenly venerate origins of the entire northern region were condensed and suppressed in the core of the northern region. The concentration of spiritual qi in the northern region suddenly increased by 10 times, or even 100 times. When the concentration of spiritual qi reached 300 times, a terrifying spiritual qi tide appeared. The spiritual qi tide suddenly formed a terrifying storm that swept across the entire northern region, completely shattering the martial god's restriction that once enveloped the northern region. But soon, a new restriction was established in the northern region, including the outer sea. This was no longer the martial god's restriction, but Yi Fei's sorcerer god's restriction. Sorcerer god, I can sense the sorcerer god's aura. Could it be that the sorcerer tribe's army has invaded the Zulong continent again? No, I have to escape. I have to break these damned seals. Just as Yi Fei was using the sorcerer god's powerful mental strength to rebuild the northern region, a graceful figure that was filled with darkness and murderous intent suddenly walked into the void somewhere in the burial land of gods. Back then, I met Yi Fei here. It was him who ruined my relationship with Fa Wudao. It was him who made me fall from the high clouds and almost shatter into pieces. We are all the 4 heavenly prides of the northern region. Why can Yi Fei, Fu Renjie, and Lin Tianjiao be so glorious, but I, Chun Mengyao, can only dream of becoming a heavenly prides of the northern region? But I, Chun Mengyao, can only drag out an ignoble existence and live a life that is neither human nor ghost. Chun Mengyao walked into the burial land of gods. She ignored the strange red fog around her and the strange monsters hidden in the fog. As she walked, she touched the hideous scar on her face with her hand. She had exchanged this scar for joining the Black Dungeon. Because she was too beautiful, and the assassins of the Black Dungeon did not need this kind of beauty. Therefore, this scar was forcibly branded on her face. This scar made her cold and cruel. It also made her crazier and more reckless. With Chun Mingyao's demigod strength, she quickly passed through the burial land of gods and arrived at the martial god's space. She did not stop here. Instead, she passed through the martial god's space and arrived at a mysterious void. In this void, there was an eerie demonic pagoda. Demon-subduing pagoda. Around the demonic pagoda, there were 13 heads of the martial god. They turned into phantom-like shadows and runes, fighting against the violent demonic chi in the demonic pagoda. Chapter 1937. Boom. At this moment, inside the 6 Tao sacred sect, the remnant consciousnesses of the 7 martial gods, who were in the midst of their eternal deduction, suddenly stopped and laughed maniacally. Success, we've succeeded. We've finally deduced the most crucial part of the 6 Tao 7 arts, bam. The remnant will of martial god Shura, who was laughing wildly, suddenly collapsed and turned into smoke. Following that, martial god Tianyi, the sacred martial god, the demonic martial god, the remnant will of the martial gods of the 6 sacred sects began to collapse. Their faces were filled with unwillingness and anger. Someone has completely destroyed the human demon's seal. Roar! The last martial god's head was smashed into pieces by Chun Mingyao's wild beast-like roar. Chun Mingyao's expression became more and more excited. The hideous scar on her face shone with a red light. I've succeeded. Lord Human Demon, I'm Chun Mengyao, and I'm here to save you. Very good. I've sworn that I'll grant 3 wishes to anyone who can save me. Tell me, what do you want? Chun Mengyao was so excited that her breathing stopped. Why didn't she run away after the Black Hell Lord died? Why did she take the risk to come to the burial land of gods? It was because she had heard that the human demon would grant 3 wishes to anyone who could save the human demon. Lord Human Demon, my first wish is to restore my appearance. Chun Mengyao touched the scar on her face and a cold light flashed in her eyes. As you wish. A white bone demon finger suddenly appeared out of nowhere and silently touched Chun Mingyao's face. The cursed scar on Chun Mingyao's face immediately disappeared. She stood up happily and immediately made her second wish. Lord Human Demon, I wish to be your disciple. As you wish. Kneel down and kowtow. Since you've saved me, I'll naturally train you as my disciple. 2 eerie eyes appeared in the demonic pagoda. Chun Mengyao didn't dare to delay. She hurriedly knelt down and kowtowed respectfully. Disciple greets Master. Disciple has a third wish. I hope Master can help me kill Yi Fei. Better yet, kill everyone in the family Yi. She hadn't forgotten the humiliation she had suffered at the family Yi. As one of the 4 great geniuses of the northern region, it was one thing for her to lose to Yi Fei, but she couldn't even defeat Yi Fei's disciple. This was something she absolutely couldn't tolerate. When the human demon heard this, his expression turned strange. You want to kill Yi Fei? Sure, it just so happens that I also have a debt to settle with him. Get up, push open the stone door of the Devil Pagoda, and I will be completely free. Yes, master. Chen Mengyao was very proud. At this moment, she was completely blinded by hatred and jealousy. She didn't notice the strange look in the human demon's eyes. Instead, without any hesitation, he approached the demonic pagoda and pushed open the stone door with all his might. When the stone door opened, a skeletal hand reached out from the void and pulled Chen Mengyao into the Devil Pagoda. Chen Mengyao screamed as if she had just woken up from a dream. Master, what are you doing? I'm already your disciple. That's right. It's precisely because you're my disciple that I need you to guard this demonic pagoda on my behalf. The heart of origin of the Zulong continent is suppressed in this demonic pagoda. It can't be discovered by the witch tribe, and it can't be known by anyone. Therefore, I need an immortal puppet. Command the skeletal army to guard this place. The human demon's tone turned eerie and strange. His skeletal hand suddenly stabbed into Chen Mingyao's body like a knife. The sharp pain caused Chen Mingyao's expression to contort in agony. She had never dreamed that releasing the human demon would lead to such terrible consequences. Her heart was suddenly filled with endless regret. You lied to me. I'm a demon. How could you believe a demon's words? How pitiful! The human demon's laughter was strange and mocking. Then, a bloody female skeleton stood expressionlessly in the void and knelt down to the human demon on one knee. Behind the female skeleton, an army of hundreds of thousands of skeletons stood silently in the void. Suddenly, 12 white bone emperor dragons flew over the army of skeletons, dragging a dazzling chariot behind them. The human demon stepped onto the chariot and slapped at the sky above the land of buried gods. A huge skeletal hand tore the sky apart and took the human demon out of the cage. There was only a bloody female skeleton left in the demonic pagoda. She led an army of skeletons and stopped in the void. Suddenly, the female skeleton seemed to have thought of something. She stretched out her hand and crushed a monarch's skeleton with her bare hands. Then, she used its bones to form a white bone imperial crown and wore it on her head. In the void, countless skeletons raised their bone sabers and bone spears. Their white chins moved up and down as they let out silent and fanatical cries. Boom! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky above the north region. Yi Jian held the golden sword in his hand and looked nervously at the martial emperor Heavenly Tribulation that was about to descend. However, before he could do anything to resist, a huge starry palm appeared above Yi City. It grabbed at the air and squeezed the Heavenly Tribulation into a huge ball. The ball of lightning was slowly held in its hand. The Heavenly Tao was furious at this moment. However, it was helpless because the Heavenly Tribulation this time was only a martial emperor Heavenly Tribulation. The Heavenly Tao's power was limited. It could make a martial emperor like Yi Jian feel like he was facing a great enemy. However, in front of Yi Fei, this Heavenly Tribulation was nothing. At this moment, he refined the Heavenly Tribulation on the spot and used the undying sword soul to turn the boundless power of the Heavenly Tribulation into precious Heavenly Tribulation fluid. The Heavenly Tribulation fluid was not only a priceless treasure for martial artists to extend their lives, but also a miracle medicine for healing injuries. Most importantly, the Heavenly Tribulation fluid tasted quite good. As a matter of fact, before Yi Fei finished refining the Heavenly Tribulation fluid, the dragon turtle had already taken out the black pot and black jar that it carried with it. It was eagerly waiting for Yi Fei to finish refining the Heavenly Tribulation fluid. Xiao Chao and Ling Siki were also sitting in a row. Each of them had a huge bowl in front of them. They were waiting for Yi Fei to finish refining the heavenly tribulation fluid and start eating. As for Xiao Chao and Ling Siki, who had suddenly appeared, Yi Shanshan and Yi Xiaochan liked them very much. They simply hugged one each and refused to let go. For Yi Fei's sake, Xiao Chao also let them be. However, just as Xiao Chao was about to eat, Xiao Chao suddenly sensed something. Xiao Chao raised his head in confusion and looked at the sky in the distance. Then, Xiao Chao's eyes widened in anger. Human demon! Yi Fei, who was refining the heavenly tribulation fluid, also had a sudden change in expression. He and Xiao Chao had both seen the human demon before. They had even almost died in the hands of the human demon. Chapter 1938. Human Demon, I've said it before. As long as I'm alive, I'll pay you back 10 times, 100 times, for what you did to Xiao Chao back then. The shock on Yi Fei's face disappeared and was replaced by anger. After all, he was no longer the weak martial sage he used to be. He was a true supreme sorcerer god. How could he be afraid of the human demon? Even though the human demon had escaped with his true body, Yi Fei was still angry. There was no fear in his heart. What? He's the human demon. He's the culprit who caused the Tianwu catastrophe. Yi Fei's words made many older cultivators cry out in shock. The previous battle had taken place in Zhongzhou. The cultivators of the North region didn't know that Yi Fei had fought a terrifying battle with the human demon. However, this didn't mean that the cultivators of the North region didn't know about the ancient catastrophe. After all, the North region had suffered the greatest loss during the human demon catastrophe. That battle had killed all 7 martial gods of the 6th sacred sect. It had also caused the North region to suffer a disastrous decline and become a barren land of martial arts. Seeing the human demon appear again, many of the older cultivators of the North region couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. They looked at the white-boned sovereign on the war chariot with fear in their eyes. Even more young cultivators, such as the young geniuses of the North region, Lin Sun, Yang Xiao, Qin Bing, and the other young martial emperors of the North region, were extremely excited. After all, the North region was no longer the North region of ancient times. Although there were no martial gods in the North region now, there was Yi Fei, the strongest prime in the world. Prime, go for it! Defeat the human demon. The appearance of the human demon didn't scare the young geniuses of Yi City. Many of them shouted loudly. Many of them were the juniors of the family Yi. What? Prime, could it be that the spiritual fluctuation that swept across the entire continent not long ago wasn't sent by the sorcerer god, but by you? The cheers of the youths in the city caused the human demon's cold eyes to suddenly reveal a look of shock and disbelief. It should be known that when the human demon first met Yi Fei was merely an insignificant martial sage ant. When he met Yi Fei for the second time, Yi Fei had only just become a martial emperor. It was just strength. How long had it been? Less than 10 years? Yi Fei had reached the Supreme Being realm? He even became a supreme sorcerer. Not to mention the human demon, any martial god would find it hard to believe. However, the truth was right in front of him. Seeing the human demon appear, Yi Fei didn't explain anything. He just suddenly condensed a huge ball of tribulation lightning in his hand and threw it at the human demon. His actions immediately infuriated the human demon. Roar! In Yi City, there was a sudden roar of grief and indignation. It was the roar of the dragon turtle. When he saw Yi Fei throw out the ball of tribulation lightning that was about to be refined into thunder tribulation liquid, the dragon turtle was so angry that tears almost fell from his eyes. Even if Yi Fei didn't want it, he shouldn't waste it like this. Xiao Chao and Ling Siki also looked incomparably heartbroken, but Zhao Xinian, Yi Shanshan and Yi Xiaochan were all extremely excited, loudly cheering for Yi Fei. You're courting death. Do you really think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you destroyed a remnant of my soul? The human demon was completely enraged. The last time his remnant soul was destroyed by Yi Fei, it was the greatest humiliation of the human demon. As soon as he was free, he came to find Yi Fei to wash away the humiliation of that year. Not to mention that the human demon and Yi Fei had long agreed to fight each other in 100 years. Boom! Silently, a huge white bone demon hand appeared in the sky. The demon hand was bigger than the sky and the earth. The human demon stretched out his hand, as if he wanted to smash Yi Fei and the whole Yi city into pieces. All the martial artists who felt the human demon's ferocious aura, including Yi Jian who had just broken through to martial emperor, involuntarily began to tremble under the monstrous demonic power. But very quickly, an even more violent and oppressive spiritual force suddenly protected them. At the same time, the ball of tribulation lightning that Yi Fei had thrown out turned into a purple sword of lightning, shattering the sky and shattering the human demon's white bone demon hand. You really are the supreme witch god. The human demon was greatly shocked. He had just tested Yi Fei's strength and immediately discovered the terror of his battle strength. That's right, I'm the witch god and also the supreme witch god. Kill, heavenly stars palm. Rumble. Yi Fei opened the golden divine treasury. Boundless spiritual force dyed the sky and the earth the color of gold. The whole Yi city's walls seemed to be plated with a layer of gold, dazzling and resplendent. Suddenly, another huge starry palm stretched out from the golden city and grabbed at the air. It reached for the human demon on the war chariot. Kill, human demon's great hatred, boundless bones, sovereign king's path. On the war chariot, the 12 white bone emperor dragons pulling the war chariot let out a soundless roar. They twisted together and transformed from the white bone emperor dragons into a white bone dragon spear. The human demon held the dragon's spear and pierced through the sky, thrusting it toward Yi Fei's starry palm. Rumble! A battle between supremes was no longer earth-shattering. Instead, it was truly earth-shattering. With just a single move, the entire Kargalic city's resplendent golden city walls were filled with countless cracks. The white bone dragon spear once again transformed into 12 ferocious white bone emperor dragons, carrying with them boundless demonic flames and death. They wanted to devour the martial artists of Yi City. Fight! At this moment, Yi Fei clasped his hands together and suddenly pointed forward with a terrifying peerless sky finger of calamity. The light from his finger grew larger and larger. The white bone emperor dragons grew larger and larger. In the end, they formed 10 world-destroying light pillars. With a series of explosions, the white bone emperor dragons were all shattered. You hurt my mount. Yi Fei, I'll have you pay for it with your life. The human demon was mad with hatred. The more he hated, the more terrifying his demonic might became. Finally, this demonic might formed a unique gate of life and death behind the human demon. This was the gate of life and death that the human demon had learned when he had joined the Hall of Life and Death. Spirits, return. The human demon roared. He used a strange demonic technique to summon spirit. The shattered bodies of the white bone emperor dragons reformed at this moment, turning into 10 even stronger white bone emperor dragons. Their cold bony claws grabbed Yi Fei's body. Roar! Yi Fei was as immovable as a mountain. His boundless spiritual power suddenly caused countless golden dragon claws to extend from his ribs and clash with the white bone emperor dragons. Then, 6 seemingly corporeal dragons of laws rushed out of Yi Fei's body, roaring angrily. They formed 6 different types of law power, suppressing time and space, as well as all the white bone emperor dragons. 8 extreme heavenly dragons break for me! Chapter 1939. Suddenly, the human demon's sinister laughter rang out from the sky. he raised the mysterious gate of life and death with one hand and condensed another skeleton. He wanted the white bone emperor dragon to come back to life. His other hand condensed a white bone fist and quickly punched out, causing the sky to explode and the land of the northern domain to sink. Yi Fei's expression changed. He knew that the human demon was trying to take advantage of his importance to the living beings of the northern region to weaken his combat power. Unfortunately, I'm not like those weak sorcerers or weapon sorcerers. I'm a battle sorcerer. The strongest battle sorcerer comparable to an earthly venerable. Stars. The sky dragon claw, which was clenched into a fist, suddenly opened up and turned into a majestic star palm. It caught the human demon's white bone fist firmly in the star palm. Roar. At the same time, Yi Fei let out a furious dragon roar. A dazzling golden sky dragon flew out from his other dragon arm and formed a dragon-shaped blood sword with his mind power. It slashed through the sky and shattered the gate of life and death that the human demon was holding up. Without the power of the gate of life and death, the 12 white bone emperor dragons could not gather again. They turned into dust and disappeared from the world. You destroyed my mount, Yi Fei. I'll skin you alive and pull out your tendons. Roar. Let's fight in a sea of blood. The human demon was furious. The moment the gate of life and death was destroyed, he clenched his free hand into a fist and smashed it toward Yi Fei's head with the fury and demonic power to shatter stars. Clang! Yi Fei's head had indeed been smashed by the demonic human, causing him to see stars and a large bump to appear on his forehead. However, he also took advantage of this period of time to quickly overlap his hands, forming 2 terrifying starry palms and ruthlessly blasting 2 large holes in the demonic human's bone chariot. Earthly venerable? You're just a sorcerer god. How can you have the combat power of an earthly venerable? The human demon shouted in panic. He finally felt that something was wrong. Even if a normal sorcerer were to break through to become a sorcerer god, his combat power would at most be equivalent to a martial arts half-step earthly venerable, or even worse. However, Yi Fei was indeed a terrifying freak. As a human, it was already unbelievable that he could learn sorcery and break through to the level of sorcerer god. What was even more unbelievable was that after Yi Fei broke through to the level of sorcerer god, his combat power was comparable to that of an earthly venerable. In this exchange, both sides seemed to have injured each other. But with Yi Fei's powerful body that was comparable to a half-step exalt artifact, he was only lightly injured. On the other hand, the human demon had not only killed all of his white bone emperor dragons, but even the war chariot he was standing on had 2 large holes blasted through it. Another golden blood sword suddenly appeared behind Yi Fei. A beam of swordlight cut through the bone war chariot. The human demon was so angry that he almost vomited blood. World War II. The human demon roared. Flames and smoke spewed out of every hole in his skull. At this moment, the human demon undoubtedly hated Yi Fei to the core. His boundless hatred caused the human demon's combat power to miraculously rise from a half-step earthly venerable to a true earthly venerable. Although this realm could only be maintained for a few breaths, the human demon took advantage of these few breaths to hurriedly use his strongest and most hidden move. World War III, God and Demon Berry. Boom. Boundless demonic chi turned into a hurricane that instantly engulfed the entire area. The many cultivators in Yi City could only raise their heads and look at the vast expanse of darkness in the sky. Even Xiao Qiao, who had opened his spiritual eye of the heavens and earth, could not see through this terrifying demonic chi. Yi Fei, who was within the demonic chi, suddenly discovered that he had entered a strange starry sky. Countless stars were moving rapidly in this starry sky. From these stars, Yi Fei saw countless cultivators. There were martial sages, martial monarchs, quasi-emperors, martial emperors, and even martial gods. Martial god Azura, demonic martial god. Suddenly, on one of the stars, Yi Fei saw 2 familiar figures. They were actually the founders of the Six Paths sacred sects. However, Yi Fei soon discovered that something was clearly wrong. These two founding ancestors were not martial gods at this moment. They were merely the most inconspicuous martial saint soldiers. In front of them, there was a large number of martial monarchs, quasi-emperors, and martial emperors. They were wearing resplendent battle armor and riding on stars as they rushed to the battlefield. Kill! Suddenly, intense battle cries sounded in Yi Fei's ears. The scene in front of him changed, and he appeared in a terrifying starry sky battlefield. Here, the corpses of martial monarchs and martial emperors were piled up like mountains. Countless broken sorcerer puppets were discarded everywhere. There were also countless ancient desolate beasts that were driven away under the control of the sorcerers. They were completely berserk as they charged forward like crazy towards a majestic continent. That was a familiar continent. Looking from the starry sky, it looked like a sleeping divine dragon entrenched in the starry sky. Yi Fei's soul suddenly shook violently. It's the ancestral dragon continent. What kind of demonic technique is this human demon? It can actually allow me to travel through time and return to more than 100,000 years ago. No, human demon doesn't have it. With that kind of ability, even a celestial venerable can't reverse time and return to the past, let alone return to more than 100,000 years ago in one breath. Kill! Kid, what are you waiting for? Fight for the ancestral land, fight for the human emperor. We can die without regrets. Let's fight to the death with those bastards of Dark Sky Lord. The sorcerers in front don't leave. Quickly stop and let me hammer you to death. Suddenly, a tall and handsome silver-armored man rushed over from afar. He carried a war hammer and charged forward like a madman. After killing a sorcerer, this man who called himself Grandpa would quickly take out a mirror to see if his hair was messy. If it wasn't, he would let out a sigh of relief. He would let out a sigh of relief and reveal a very despicable smile. If things got messy, this person wouldn't say a word. He would pick up his warhammer and rush into the sorcerer's rank. Yi Fei was speechless. He felt that this scene was indescribably familiar. But before he could think about it, suddenly, on the battlefield, both sorcerers and humans let out thunderous cheers. Celestial Venerable! Celestial Venerable! Human Emperor! Human Emperor! It's finally here. The moment to decide the fate of our ancestral dragon continent has arrived. A deep and familiar voice came from Yi Fei's side. When he turned around, Yi Fei was so shocked that he almost cried out. It was actually Di Zongzi who was walking over. Brother Human Emperor, you can do it! Another familiar voice came into Yi Fei's ears. He couldn't help but look up at the starry sky with a strange expression. He found that it was a young girl who had run to the battlefield to cheer on the two sides. Yi Fei immediately realized that Di Zongzi beside him was so angry that black smoke was coming out of his head. Further away, there was an old man who was so angry that he covered his face with his sleeves. He didn't dare to recognize his daughter. The one covering his sleeves is Senior Tian Zongzi? The one cheering is Fairy Zongzi? Then the human emperor everyone is cheering for. Chapter 1940. Wang Bai. That figure was too familiar, especially those 4 eyebrows. They were too eye-catching. Yi Fei recognized him with a single glance. Yi Fei. Above the star, Wang Bai's face also revealed a surprised expression. Then, a familiar smile appeared on his face as he waved at Yi Fei. Yi Fei subconsciously nodded in response. Then, Yi Fei suddenly realized that something was wrong. The human demon definitely doesn't have the ability to reverse time and bring me back to the primordial era. Even if I did, the past Wang Bai wouldn't have been able to recognize me. You're not Wang Bai. You're the human demon. Boom. When Yi Fei shouted these words, the battlefield suddenly became eerily quiet. Everyone was motionless, as if they were puppets on strings. Only Wang Bai, who was wearing a snow-white robe, had a cold expression on his face. "You're not stupid after all. Unfortunately, you're not that stupid. Unfortunately, you still fell into my graveyard of gods and demons. Now I'll bury you thoroughly. Kill." Wang Bai, no, the human demon's eyes suddenly flashed with scarlet killing intent. In the starry sky, a pale white spear light suddenly appeared, turning the entire starry sky into a terrifying sea of blood. Battle of the Sea of Blood. Celestial Palm of Stars. Ignoring the sea of blood, Yi Fei directly waved his palm, causing huge waves to surge in the sea of blood. Then, he stepped on the waves to avoid the spear light. The powerful celestial palm of stars suddenly slapped at the human demon's body. World War II madness. The human demon's face twisted. At this time, he chose to ignore Yi Fei's celestial palm of stars and sent a powerful white bone demon fist tearing through the air. Yi Fei's celestial palm of stars and the white bone demon fist just happened to miss each other in the air. They both received the other's attack at the same time. The human demon's body only swayed for a moment before he stabilized himself. Yi Fei, on the other hand, felt that his entire shoulder bone had been shattered by the demonic fist. He lowered his arm, enduring the pain, and hurriedly used the sorcerer god's powerful spiritual power to heal his injury. A trace of shock and horror flashed across his face. Demonic human, what kind of demonic art is this? It can actually break our realm. Swap. When they had fought just now, Yi Fei had been shocked to discover that the human demon had used some unknown demonic art to not only bring him into the illusory realm of the ancient battlefield, but even stranger was that in this illusory starry sky, he and the human demon's strength had actually swapped places. Here, the demonic human demon's realm had suddenly changed from half-step earthly venerate to a true earthly venerate, while Yi Fei's realm had changed from battle wizard god, who was comparable to an earthly venerate, to half-step earthly venerate. This demonic technique is too strange. It's almost on par with Master Devil Emperor's devouring demonic technique. However, when Master Devil Emperor's devouring demonic technique was activated, I could sense it. But when Master Devil Emperor activated his devouring demonic technique, I couldn't sense it at all. Boom. Even though his realm had suddenly swapped places with the human demon, Yi Fei was still a half-step earthly venerate. When he was pushed back, he had already activated his mind power to heal his internal injuries. Fortunately, he had 2 golden god treasures and his mind power was comparable to 2 wizard gods. Otherwise, the human demon's punch would have consumed a large amount of his mind power. In a battle between sovereigns, even a glance or a strand of hair of negligence was enough to instantly lose one's life, let alone the amount of mind power consumed. Kill. The human demon did not give Yi Fei a chance to react. When he realized that his punch had not seriously injured Yi Fei, he instantly launched a second white bone demon fist at Yi Fei. Octopole Celestial Dragon, Formless Finger of Disaster. A cold light flashed in Yi Fei's eyes. Even though his realm had been lowered, he had no intention of backing down. 2 sovereign-level techniques were launched at the same time. Although each technique could only display 70% of its power, when the 2 techniques were stacked together, their power could be stacked 14 times. To a certain extent, this also made up for the gap between a half-step earthly venerate and an earthly venerate. This time, Yi Fei successfully blocked the human demon's white bone demon fist. However, before he could catch his breath, the human demon suddenly laughed and roared. The first battle was a sea of blood. The second battle was madness. Yi Fei, dying under my graveyard of gods and demons is an honorable death for you. Scram! You're still 100,000 years too young for me to die. My realm wouldn't have swapped places with yours for no reason. Either this is an illusion, or there's something wrong with this graveyard of gods and demons. That's right, I understand now. A bold idea suddenly appeared in Yi Fei's mind. The graveyard of gods and demons that I've entered is very likely the human demon's demon realm. It's just that this infernal domain is very special. It can allow people who enter the infernal domain to switch their realms with those of humans and demons. However, the infernal domain itself cannot allow the realms of both parties to be switched directly. If I had entered the demon realm in the demon realm, I would have attacked directly instead of going through so much trouble and creating this illusion that I've returned to the primordial age. Boom! While Yi Fei was pondering, their martial techniques collided once again. Even though he was using two sovereign-level techniques at the same time, his current realm had already swapped places with the human demons. Relying on his half-step earthly venerate realm, he still had two sovereign-level techniques that he couldn't display their full power. Naturally, Yi Fei wasn't a match for the human demon. The exchange of blows only lasted for a moment. Once again, the human demon smashed a bloody hole into Yi Fei's body. He had no choice but to retreat again to avoid the brunt of the attack. Kill! The human demon roared for the third time. He still didn't give Yi Fei a chance to catch his breath. The third white bone demon fist smashed toward Yi Fei. Yi Fei's heart sank. The enemy was strong while he was weak. Of course, he couldn't go head-to-head with the human demon. As he continued to retreat, Yi Fei opened the golden divine treasure again. In one breath, he struck out 13 celestial palms into the surrounding starry sky. These celestial palms overlapped each other like shining stars. They blasted toward the entire starry sky. Not only did they shatter countless starry skies, but they also shattered countless warriors and wizards in the surroundings. As Yi Fei had expected, although these people were real, they were actually illusions created by the human demon. When the illusions shattered, the surrounding starry sky instantly turned into a demon realm filled with dense demon chi. However, just as Yi Fei was concentrating all his strength in an attempt to break through this demon realm and restore his cultivation base, the human demon's face was full of mockery. He punched again, smashing a bowl-sized bloody hole into Yi Fei's body. Blood spurted out from his body like a fountain. The intense pain made Yi Fei frown. He could only retreat once again. At the same time, he kept bursting with the mental energy of the golden divine treasure. However, he didn't heal his injuries. Instead, he forcefully endured the pain, wanting to kill his way out of this strange demon realm. Chapter 1941. You're smart. You saw the flaw in my demon realm so quickly. Not bad. The graveyard of gods and demons is my demon realm. But to break this demon realm, you have to have the attack power of an earthly venerable to do so. Do you think you have the potential to unleash the power of an earthly venerable when you agreed and switched realms? Do you have the power and opportunity? The human demon was calm and unruffled. He looked at Yi Fei as if he was looking at a caged tiger. His eyes were full of mockery, sarcasm, and indifference. He did not kill Yi Fei immediately. He had been injured by the 8th-level heavenly dragon before. Naturally, he knew that Yi Fei had mastered a complete heavenly venerable level technique. A heavenly venerable level technique was an important condition for breaking through to the heavenly venerable level. The human demon would not give it up so easily. Yi Fei, hand over the 8th-level heavenly dragon and I can spare your life. I'll just turn you into a white bone monarch like me. The human demon sneered. He looked as if he had Yi Fei under his control. That was indeed the case. Now that their realms had been switched, Yi Fei had been completely suppressed in the battle just now. He had even suffered serious injuries. If they continued to fight, the human demon might be able to kill Yi Fei with just one move. Human demon, your demon realm is indeed magical. But if you think you can kill me like this, you're underestimating me. Kill, undying sword soul, wake up. The graveyard of gods and demons could switch realms, but it could not suppress the undying sword soul's divine power. After all, it was a heavenly realm sword soul from the 9 heavens. The destructive sword aura it contained was enough to destroy heaven and earth and shatter the starry sky. Understanding that the demon realm might be the human demon's strongest trump card, Yi Fei finally revealed his own. The sword soul in his body awakened and released a terrifying destructive sword light. When the human demon saw the destructive sword light, his entire white bone demon body trembled violently. What kind of sword soul is that? How can it avoid the suppression of the graveyard of gods and demons? Oh no, this is an earthly venerable. Stop. Intense shock flashed in the human demon's eyes. His demonic flames raged, and he immediately struck out 2 terrifying white bone demon fists. He wanted to kill Yi Fei on the spot. He did not even care about asking him about the heavenly venerable level technique. Boom. It was also at this moment that the destructive sword chi from the undying sword soul turned into a terrifying beam of light that destroyed everything in its path. It also slashed apart the special demonic domain that Yi Fei was hiding in. In the sky above Kargalik, all the martial artists could see was a ray of sword soul radiance. It tore through the sky like lightning and let out a loud bang. The monstrous demonic aura that enveloped the entire Kargalik was suddenly torn apart. Light was restored to heaven and earth, but it was not sunlight. Instead, it was extremely dazzling sword light. It wasn't enough to destroy the celestial realm with a single slash. Yi Fei, in a spurt of energy, suddenly unleashed the great heaven formless tribulation, the 8 extreme celestial dragon, and the celestial star technique consecutively. He even had a divine battle technique. Without the suppression of the demon domain, Yi Fei, who had regained the fighting power of the sorcerer god, immediately unleashed the full power of these 3 martial arts. During this time, the human demon also let out a furious roar. He was filled with hatred and wanted to reform his demonic domain to resist Yi Fei. Unfortunately, the power of Yi Fei's 3 martial arts was too terrifying. The entire sky was filled with a dazzling golden divine light. That was the last of Yi Fei's mental strength. It was completely berserk and boiling. Then, it mercilessly attacked the human demon. No, I will definitely not be defeated. I am the strongest in the world. With my hatred, I will kill all living things. The human demon was furious and roared. His intense hatred and killing intent caused the human demon to use the white bone demon fist to kill 4 of Yi Fei's law heavenly dragons in succession. However, the human demon's resistance came to an end. Then, his white bone demon fist was mercilessly devoured by the remaining law heavenly dragons and the great heaven formless tribulation. Even so, Yi Fei had no intention of letting the human demon go. This is a great enemy second only to the dark heavenly lord. If the human demon doesn't die, the Tianwu continent will never have peace. Kill. Amidst the golden divine light that filled the sky, the final all-heaven star's palm had already shattered the demon flames that the human demon had hurriedly gathered. Perhaps in the next breath, Yi Fei would be able to completely reduce the human demon's body to ashes, just like he had destroyed the demon's domain. Just at this moment, a familiar voice rang out from the heavily injured human devil. Brother, the human devil can't die. The martial heaven continent's core has already fallen into his hands. If the human devil dies, the core will also shatter. Roar. The human demon let out an unwilling roar. However, he was already heavily injured and could no longer suppress Wang Bai. A familiar figure appeared in his body once more. That person was wearing white robes. His 4 eyebrows fluttered in the wind, giving off a strange feeling. However, behind him was the 1,000-armed devil. It was sinister and evil, giving off a terrifying feeling. Wang Bai, who needs your help? I'll definitely refine you to death one day. Get the hell out of my body! The human demon roared furiously. Even though he was heavily injured and on the verge of death, he was still unable to calm down. He was like a devil that had gone berserk. Strangely, behind the human demon was a dazzling figure. It was the image of a benevolent true god. Wang Bai, the human demon? Yi Fei's eyes widened. This scene was too bizarre. The human demon he had been about to kill actually had Wang Bai come out of his body. No, this is definitely an illusion. Human demon, do you think I'll fall for it again? Die. Yi Fei's gaze hardened, and the all-heaven star palm continued to descend. Wang Bai's eyebrows were knitted together in fright. He hastily shouted, "It's not an illusion. I really am Wang Bai. Brother, have you forgotten? Back then, when you peeked at Zhao Yu bathing, I endured it and didn't." "Shut up!" Bam! Yi Fei's eyebrows twitched. The all-heaven star palm had already stopped, but when he heard Wang Bai's words, Yi Fei didn't say anything else and immediately struck out. The human demon's sturdy white bone demon body let out an earth-shattering boom. The human demon and Wang Bai both cried out in pain. The human demon cried out in pain, but Wang Bai cried out in heartache, "My arm bone. Even my ribs are broken. Surnamed Yi, you're really ruthless. To think I still treated you as a brother." As Wang Bai spoke, he painfully picked up a rib bone that had been sent flying by Yi Fei and hurriedly reconnected the human demon's skeleton. Yi Fei pretended not to see. Just based on the fact that Wang Bai had exposed his shortcomings, he had already restrained himself by not killing him. However, Wang Bai's words made him certain that the person in front of him wasn't an illusion, but the real Wang Bai. As for why Wang Bai would appear from the human demon's body, Yi Fei didn't have time to think about it. Seeing Wang Bai appear, Yi Fei immediately thought of all the hardships and grievances he had suffered when he became human emperor. It was fine if he didn't see Wang Bai, but now that he saw him, the anger that Yi Fei had accumulated over the years finally couldn't hold back and erupted. Chapter 1942. Wang Bai was shocked. He jumped up angrily and scolded, "Yi, if it weren't for me, you wouldn't have become the human emperor. Let's talk this out." Yi Fei was even angrier when he heard this. He roared, "You still have the cheek to bring this up. It would have been better if he hadn't brought this up." Now that he did, he was filled with anger. Yi Fei kicked even harder and beat him even faster. Wang Bai could only grab the human demon's broken rib and resist with all his might. "Brother, I can explain." "Explain my ass!" Yi Fei roared angrily. He snatched the rib and kicked Wang Bai again, almost sending him rolling on the ground. "Yi, you're not human. What sin have I committed?" Wang Bai flew into a rage out of humiliation. Even the ferocious true demon behind him became ferocious. When Wang Bai realized this, his face quickly turned pale. He quickly sat down cross-legged, as though he was desperately suppressing the restless true demon behind him. "Wang Bai, what's wrong? Are you all right? I didn't mean to hit you. I just..." Yi Fei was still angry at first. However, he saw that Wang Bai's condition was not right. Even his body was flickering, as though he would disappear at any time. Yi Fei's heart suddenly tensed up. After all, even though Wang Bai had cheated him many times, Wang Bai had helped him even more. In his heart, Yi Fei still recognized Wang Bai as his brother. He no longer cared about kicking Wang Bai. He quickly went over and channeled all his demigod true essence into Wang Bai's body. Only then did Wang Bai roar. He finally succeeded in suppressing the true demon behind him. He then stood up, sweating profusely. Seeing Wang Bai like this, Yi Fei felt even more guilty. He couldn't help but lower his head apologetically. "Wang Bai, are you all right? If I knew you were so weak, I would have held back and waited for you to recover before I hit you." Hearing that Yi Fei wanted to hit him a second time, Wang Bai's 4 fluttering eyebrows trembled violently. Then he sighed and wiped the blood from his nose. "Hey brother, you don't have to say anything. I understand. After all, you don't look that good to begin with, and you're facing me like this. It's inevitable that the most handsome man in the world will feel jealous and ashamed of his inferiority. There's nothing you can do about being handsome. In the past, I was envied wherever I went. Now, wherever I go, I get beaten up. I'm so handsome that it's a sin. Wang Bai sighed. Yi Fei suddenly had the urge to hit him again. However, before he could start fighting, Wang Bai's eyebrows trembled like dragon whiskers. His face suddenly darkened as he said, "Now is not the time to talk. Hurry up and take the human demon to the demon sealing tower in the land of buried gods. The human demon's devil soul has severely injured you. It is very likely that the demon sealing tower's skeleton army will go out of control." What? The heart of the origin? Yi Fei was shocked. He never thought that the heart of the origin of the Tianwu continent would be in the hands of the human demon. However, he soon understood. The human demon had caused a calamity in the ancient times. He had cut off the dragon head and dragon tail of the Zulong continent, turning the Zulong continent into a broken Tianwu continent. He reckoned that the human demon had already found the heart of the origin at that time. However, Yi Fei found it strange. Since the human demon had obtained the heart of the origin, why didn't he refine it or give it to the sorcerer tribe? Why did he hide it secretly? Hearing Yi Fei's question, Wang Bai quickly laughed. He pointed at himself and said, "If the human demon wants to give the heart of the origin to the sorcerer tribe or refine it, he has to go through me. With Big Brother suppressing him in his body, how can the human demon be so unbridled?" Yi Fei was puzzled. "So you left the human battlefield to suppress the human devils? That's not right. Since you suppressed the human devils, why did you let the human devils create an ancient calamity and even let your main body escape?" Wang Bai's 4 eyebrows trembled violently. He then coughed dryly and glared angrily at Yi Fei. "Let's talk about this later. It's more important to deal with the human devil's skeleton army in the demon sealing tower first. They are all formed from the resentment of experts who died. Once they lose control of the human devils, they will immediately turn into the most brutal creatures. Bone devil and unmelted bones. Then let's go now." Yi Fei's expression turned ugly. He suddenly understood why Wang Bai wanted to stop him from killing the demon killer. In the end, the bone army of the god burial ground numbered in the millions. If that many bones went out of control and turned into bone devils, they would charge out of the unsealed god burial ground. That would be another calamity for the martial heaven continent. More importantly, the heart of origin was hidden in the god burial ground. If the bone devils were to destroy it, the entire martial heaven continent would be destroyed. As the human emperor, Yi Fei and Wang Bai couldn't shirk their responsibility. "Forget it. I'll remember this beating. When I'm free, I'll drag Wang Bai out and beat him up again," Yi Fei planned in his heart. He didn't have time to tell the others in detail. He only asked Yi Shanshan to look after Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle. He had already brought Wang Bai and the imprisoned human devils. They left the north region and rushed towards the god burial ground. During this period of time, the central region held the heaven and earth supreme leaderboard. Countless empires in the central region sent their strongest young talents to the god burial ground to train. Among these people, there was no lack of young kings and even young emperors. However, no matter how strong these young emperors and kings were, when faced with an endless army of skeletons that constantly transformed into bone devils, these martial artists who were training were still in great danger. If not for the martial heaven continent's spiritual chi having recovered long ago, and the endless stream of genius martial artists, and the large number of elixirs brought back from the starry sky to increase their strength, just the red monsters hidden in the god burial ground alone would have been enough to make them suffer. Not to mention, the entire god burial ground had an endless stream of skeletons that were out of control. The army walked out of the demon sealing tower. These skeletons were the strongest group of martial artists in the ancient past when they were alive. There were martial sages and martial emperors among them. There were even boundary emperors and martial emperors. When the human devil was sealed and suppressed by the demon sealing tower, even if these skeletons turned into bone devils, they could only unleash the fighting power of a martial sage. However, as the human devil was freed, the seal of the demon sealing tower lost its effect. The entire god burial ground was no longer sealed. The army of skeletons hidden in it instantly erupted. They used all their fighting power. The bone devils carried the hatred from when they were alive and the ferocity of monsters. They started to wreak havoc in the god burial ground. They devoured batch after batch of young martial artists who came in for training. When Yi Fei and Wang Bai arrived in the entire land of buried gods, apart from a dozen temporary cities built by young emperors, the rest of the temporary cities were already covered in corpses, and rivers of blood flowed. When Yi Fei saw this, his gaze could not help but dim. Wang Bai also sighed. Then, he said, "Don't be discouraged. As the human sovereign, you have to have this kind of awareness. We cannot bring the dead back to life, but we can let the living walk out alive. Leave the bone devils outside to me. I'll leave the bone devils in the demon sealing tower to you. Remember, no matter what, don't let the bone devils enter. Find the heart of origin for the unmelted bones inside. Even if you find it, you can't let them refine it. The most important thing in a continent was the heart of its origin." Chapter 1943. Boom. While Yi Fei and Wang Bai were discussing, the youths of the god burial land didn't just sit there and wait for death. Over a dozen youths had joined forces. They were the strongest geniuses of the martial heaven continent in this era. They were much stronger than Yi Fei's era. It was also because of the concerted efforts of these young rulers and a large number of martial artists that they were able to hold on until now. Even so, Yi Fei could tell at a glance that these martial artists had already reached their limit. As more and more bone devils walked out of the demon sealing tower, these martial artists, including those soon, the youths would be drowned out. "Human devil, look. This is what you've done. I wasn't able to stop you in the ancient era, but this time, I'll definitely stop you. God and devil one body." Wang Bai's heart was burning with anxiety. His body transformed into a ray of light that merged with the true devil behind him. Then the true devil drilled into the human devil's body. The human devil roared furiously. Even though he was heavily injured and on the verge of death, he still let out a roar of unwillingness and fear. But at this moment Yi Fei snorted coldly. His powerful mental energy formed shackles that completely suppressed the human devil. Wang Bai's true devil form finally merged with the human devil's body. The human devil's cold skeleton actually grew true flesh and blood. The final person to appear in front of Yi Fei was no longer the human devil, but the white-robed Wang Bai. Yi Fei looked at this scene in shock. "Human devil, Wang Bai, you're actually the same person?" "No. The human devil's soul left my body and was maliciously transformed by the Dark Empyrean. In order to suppress the human devil and take back this body, I had to endure over 100,000 years of suffering. But no matter how difficult it was, as the human emperor, we must fight for the human race, for the martial heaven continent. We must fight for the people of the martial heaven continent." When Wang Bai reappeared, he no longer had that despicable aura. Instead, he had the aura of an emperor that soared into the heavens. Behind him, the illusory figures of a true devil and a true god appeared. These two figures overlapped and transformed into a powerful life form that was neither a god nor a devil. Humans are called gods by nature and emperors by the day after. If I become the emperor, I will protect the people, cultivate my spear, and wear the same robe as my son. Celestial devil overlord body, invincible in the imperial path. Wang Baihuang's might was vast and mighty as he punched out brazenly. Boom! Dazzling imperial light transformed into endless dragon-shaped fist radiance. It was the human race, fighting against the heavens and earth, slaying gods and devils. This was the human emperor. This was Wang Bai. In front of the brilliant divine light of the human emperor fist, the bone demon army was like pieces of paper that were shattered by Wang Bai. Wang Bai's strength immediately attracted the attention of the bone demon army. The bone demons that were pouring out of the demon sealing tower suddenly stopped. Then, powerful immortal monarchs walked out of the demon sealing tower coldly. These monarchs were all martial gods when they were alive. After they died, they were refined by the human demon for tens of thousands of years, and had long become the most terrifying white bone monarchs. They walked out silently and charged toward Wang Bai. The appearance of the white bone emperor also made the hundreds of thousands of bone demons in the land of buried gods go crazy. Kill. Suddenly, a terrifying kill character made of white bones appeared in the void. Upon closer inspection, the kill character was actually formed by tens of thousands of bone demons. They formed a silent kill character of death. At the same time, they formed a terrifying sea of white bones that completely drowned Wang Bai. Wang Bai, you must live. You still owe me a beating. Yi Fei roared fiercely. Just as Wang Bai's figure was drowned by the endless sea of bones, Yi Fei opened his golden divine treasure again. Dazzling spiritual power turned him into a golden god-fiend. Then, a scarlet blood sword that shone with golden divine light appeared in Yi Fei's hand. He quickly slashed at the demon sealing tower. Boom! The entire demon sealing tower. Before the power of Yi Fei's golden blood sword, a huge hole was blasted open. Then, Yi Fei walked into the hole with his sword. Kill! In the demon sealing tower, dozens of white bone emperors formed by immortal skeletons had been waiting for a long time. They let out silent roars, and their cold eyes condensed with each other, forming countless pale white bone flames that burned fiercely. They wanted to block the hole that Yi Fei had created. Yi Fei, on the highest divine throne of the demon sealing tower, a female white bone emperor was sitting cross-legged. She wore a white bone crown on her head, and held a pale white bone scepter in her hand. She also let out a vague roar. Blood, flesh, and vocal cords were continuously growing in his throat. White bone resurrection. You're Chen Mengyao. Oh no, you're holding the heart of origin. The white bone emperor that rushed up exploded with a bang. Yi Fei instantly charged into the demon sealing tower from outside the hole with the light of bone flames soaring into the sky. However, he was still a step too late. The heart of origin had been obtained by Chen Mengyao in advance. Although the human demon deceived me, he turned me into something that was neither human nor ghost, but the human demon still fulfilled part of his promise. He turned me into the strongest monarch here, the unmelted bones, and made me the second monarch of all the bone devils here. On Chen Mingyao's scarlet skull, flesh and blood quickly grew out. Flesh and blood, human skin, and hair appeared one after another. She had returned to being one of the four great geniuses of the northern region, the picturesque fairy Mengyao. Only her eyes were filled with coldness and hatred. Yi Fei, thanks to you seriously injuring the human demon's control over me is now so weak that it's negligible. I have also obtained this heart of origin. When I refine it, I will definitely become the ruler of this continent, and I will also become your ruler. Now use all of your strength, fight to the death, drag him out for me. A ghost-like roar came from her throat. Hundreds of white bone emperors suddenly appeared in the demon sealing tower. They faithfully carried out Chen Mengyao's orders. All of them surged with killing intent and silently charged towards Yi Fei. They also protected Chen Mengyao and successfully refined the sky martial continent's heart of origin. Yi Fei's gaze instantly turned cold, followed by a boundless murderous intent surging from his body. All of you scram! Chen Mengyao, You have truly angered me this time. Yi Fei roared. Even though Chen Mingyao's temperament had changed greatly and she had done countless evil things. But on account of their previous acquaintance and Fu Renjie's face, Yi Fei had always endured and did not kill Chen Mingyao. But now, he had this kind of patience, was finally completely worn down. The heart of origin must not be refined by the crazy Chen Mingyao. Otherwise, the entire Sky Martial continent will be destroyed by this crazy and twisted woman. Kill. The blood sword in Yi Fei's hand became even more dazzling than before. All of his mental strength was released at this moment. Chapter 1944. Shock and fear flashed through the cold, empty eye sockets of the remaining immortal skeletons. A strange and cold smile appeared on Chen Mingyao's face. Yi Fei, you are indeed very strong. But how much power did you consume in the battle with the human demon? How much power did you consume to rush from the northern region to the land of buried gods? Killing these immortal skeletons should be the last of your mental strength. Without mental strength, you are no longer a sorcerer god. You are just an exhausted sorcerer god. A pitiful demigod. You can't stop me, nor can you stop them. Roar. The white skeleton army suddenly surged back from all directions. Under King Chen Mingyao's command, the remaining unmelted skeletons, regardless of whether they were heavily injured or crippled, once again emitted the aura of darkness and death. Kill him! Help me become a god! When I become a god and refine the heart of origin, I want the entire Sky Martial continent to prostrate before me. I want the 2 generations of human emperors to kneel before me and become my most loyal servants. Chen Mingyao stood up excitedly. She held a bright pearl in her hand. It was the dragon pearl formed after the ancestral dragon died. It was also the heart of origin that could affect the entire Sky Martial continent. As the heavenly venerate's origin continuously flowed into her body, Chen Mingyao's originally withered skeleton body was regenerating flesh and blood at an even faster speed. Soon, new flesh and organs grew out of her neck and upper body. When all the flesh and blood in her body were regenerated, it would be the time for her to be reborn and refine the heart of origin. Yi Fei's heart was suddenly filled with anxiety and killing intent. He no longer entangled with the Bone Demon army. Instead, he steeled his heart and completely ignored the Bone Demon army coming from all directions. He only charged toward Chen Mingyao crazily. Yi Fei, you really haven't changed. You are still as impulsive and stupid as you were in the northern region. Without the sorcerer god's battle strength, do you think you are still a match for the Bone Demon army that I control? Chen Mingyao sneered. The heart of origin in her hand was being refined even faster. Soon, even her legs were regenerating flesh and blood, turning her from a sinister and terrifying blood-colored skeleton into a picturesque beauty. But it was also at this moment. Boom! Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out in the air. In the midst of the sea of skeletons, a faint astral sword light suddenly flickered. After that, this astral sword light grew stronger and stronger, brighter and brighter. Amidst the endless bone demons, Yi Fei raised the limitless sword with both hands. Like a war demon, he smashed the white bones around him. That's right. My mental strength was indeed exhausted in the battle with the human demon. My Zhen Yuan is also running low. However, I still have a half-venerable artifact body and the limitless sword in my hand. Old friend, I still have to rely on you at this critical moment. Farewell. Yi Fei suddenly roared with a sad expression. The limitless sword seemed to have sensed something. It let out a sorrowful cry, and the sword's spirit inside suddenly collapsed. Boom! This was the self-destruction of a divine artifact. The violent explosion caused the entire demon ceiling tower to shatter. The sea of bones that had once drowned Yi Fei turned into countless bone fragments and exploded into countless bone flames. And amidst the bone flames that filled the sky, a figure burning with pale white flames walked out with large strides. Although he was panting, his fighting spirit was still soaring. He instantly appeared in front of Chen Mengyao. He suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed the origin source. Impossible. How can your physical body be so strong? You can even block the self-destruction of a divine artifact. I won't lose. Even if I lose, I won't let you win. Yi Fei, let's die together. Chen Mingyao's eyes flashed with hatred and madness. Knowing that she could not defeat Yi Fei, she was so crazy that she immediately chose to perish together with him. Her body that had not been completely regenerated suddenly cracked. Then, countless explosive lights rushed out from the cracks in her body. In an instant, the entire demon ceiling tower was detonated. It was about to detonate the origin source in her hand. Yi Fei's heart flashed with great fear. If the origin source was destroyed, the spirit chi that had been restored to the Sky Martial continent would quickly dissipate. From then on, it would completely become a dead continent without any spirit chi. He had never thought that Chen Mengyao would do such a crazy thing. Subconsciously, Yi Fei rushed forward without caring about anything. At the same time that he grabbed the origin source, Yi Fei had already roared in his heart. Undying Sword Soul, absorb. Boom! The sword's soul awakened and formed a terrifying vortex of destruction. Being heavily injured, he was unable to disperse the huge energy of a demigod's self-destruction. The only thing he could do was to use the undying sword soul to absorb and refine the origin source in advance before this energy destroyed the origin source. Therefore, this time, Yi Fei completely released all the restrictions on the undying sword soul. For the first time, Yi Fei completely took out the undying sword soul from his dantian. It formed a huge sword shadow with a golden body with black patterns. This sword shadow, it could swallow the heavens and destroy the earth. It could slay gods and demons and kill liches. The moment the sword soul appeared, it sensed the heavenly venerate's origin source in the chaos all around. Without needing Yi Fei's urging, the undying sword soul had already turned into a terrifying vortex of destruction. In an instant, it swallowed the origin source and started to refine it frantically. Given the power of the undying sword soul, there was no need to worry that the self-destruction of a demigod would affect its absorption of the heavenly venerate's origin source. At the same time, Yi Fei's physical body, which was at the pseudo-remedial grade, was not even afraid of the self-destruction of a divine-grade weapon. Naturally, he would not care about Chen Mingyao's crazy self-destruction of a demigod. In the end, he simply sat down in the midst of this destructive storm and allowed the undying sword soul to refine the origin source. Otherwise, he would not have been able to protect the origin source from being destroyed by the energy of the demigod's self-destruction. After all, the pearl formed by the origin source was very fragile. While Yi Fei completely released the undying sword soul and refined the origin source, the dark nether abyss, in the underworld, a huge vibration suddenly came from the place where heavenly venerate darkness was sleeping. Countless runes flickered in the starry sky. They were as big as stars and as bright as the moon. If one took a closer look, they would not be stars, but countless heavenly venerate origins that formed an origin divine array. At that moment, heavenly venerate darkness, who was in the divine array, was suddenly awakened by the powerful destructive aura of the undying sword soul. What a strong sword way aura! It can actually awaken me from my deep slumber. However, this is also good. I have planned this for tens of thousands of years, but it was completely destroyed by a junior with the surname Yi. He even caused me to lose the spiritual soul that I cultivated with great difficulty. This is unforgivable. The consequences of angering me can only be repaid with blood. Pass down my order. All the sorcerer gods of the sorcerer tribe, come and see me immediately. If anyone dares to not come, their entire tribe will be annihilated. On this day, apart from the fire's golden palace and the minister's golden palace, which Yi Fei had taken away, all the other golden palaces of the sorcerer tribe were filled with this majestic and cold voice. However, when they heard this voice, all the sorcerer gods and golden sorcerers trembled in fear. Chapter 1945. Holy Master, Dark Holy Master has completely awakened. Empyreans were originally not allowed to exist in this world. When Dark Empyrean awakened, his powerful Empyrean aura, even though it was only a flash, was still unavoidable. Both the human god and heavenly god simultaneously sensed it, and their faces were filled with shock. Every time Dark Holy Master woke up, it meant that a new bloody war between the human and sorcerer tribes was about to break out. It also meant that a large number of martial gods and martial emperors would fall in this unprecedented bloody war. Moreover, this war was different from the previous ones. In the human tribe's impregnable pass, Yi Fei had destroyed Dark Holy Master's hidden doppelganger. This would undoubtedly enrage Dark Holy Master. The great war between humans and sorcerers this time might turn into the final battle between our two races. The human deity's expression was filled with worry. The human tribe's impregnable pass had lasted for so long without being breached by the sorcerer tribe. Firstly, the sorcerer gods of the sorcerer tribe were much weaker than the earthly venerables of the human tribe. They could not form an absolute advantage. Secondly, in the previous wars, Dark Holy Master had only woken up for a short while before falling into a deep sleep. He continued to heal and prolong his life. However, it was different this time. Dark Holy Master's doppelganger had been lurking in the human tribe for many years and knew the situation of the human tribe's impregnable pass like the back of his hand. At this time, if Dark Holy Master led the sorcerer tribe's army to attack the human tribe's impregnable pass again, no matter how ambitious man-gods and divine gods were, they were not confident that they could defend the impregnable pass. Although we don't want to admit it, we have no other choice but to elect that boy as our leader to lead us against Dark Holy Master. Divine God said with a cold face. Man-God also nodded gloomily. Normally, even if Yi Fei and the human Emperor Palace were strong, they would not easily submit to orders. However, it was different now. This time, they might have to face the real Dark Holy Master. Even man-gods and divine gods could not help but feel angry and fearful. It was this fear that made man-gods and divine gods decide to give up their power and elect Yi Fei and the human Emperor Palace as the new beast spirits in the human tribe's battlefield. Of course, this did not exclude the possibility that man-gods and divine gods wanted to use Yi Fei and the human Emperor Palace to fight with Dark Holy Master. However, the Sky Celestial and the Man Celestial ultimately compromised in the face of Heavenly Venerate Haon's terrifying pressure. In the following period of time, the entire human race's impregnable pass entered a tense state of preparation for war. Every martial god realm expert was summoned to the human fortress. They put on their armor and became generals. The half-martial gods and martial monarchs came from the Trial Cities and the Wind Cloud City, forming powerful armies. Every day there would be war cries and battle cries, as well as the shouts of military drills. Due to the infiltration of Heavenly Lord He Tianzuan, as well as the destruction caused by eliminating the remnants of the Hidden God Palace, the human clan's impregnable pass had also lost several hundred martial gods. Fortunately, Yi Fei had abducted 100,000 wizards from the sorcerer tribe and turned them into sorcerer traders. Among them, thousands of them were golden sorcerers. Gong Zhu had even reached the level of half-step supreme sorcerer after merging with the golden divine treasure and cultivating divine-level sorcerer spells. The Nephilim Emperor had also reached the level of half-step earthly venerable. In addition to the compromise of the Sky Celestial and the Man Celestial, the human race's battlefield might not be the strongest, but it was the most united. Of course, this was only the sky celestial and the man celestial. They did not know that Yi Fei had merged with a complete origin source core. The origin source core was the key to controlling a continent. Whoever could refine it would be able to make all the martial artists born on the continent bow their heads and obey their orders. Of course, Yi Fei was already the human emperor. Naturally, he did not care about the ruling rights of a continent. What made him ecstatic was that after refining the origin source core, the seal of the undying sword soul had been lifted by another layer. The power of the destruction sword chi had also increased from 1,000th to 100th. Oh my god, it's actually 100th. If I can release this destruction sword chi, the entire Tianwu continent will be destroyed by me in an instant. Yi Fei secretly clicked his tongue. When he felt the terrifying power hidden within the undying sword soul, even as a sorcerer celestial, Yi Fei felt fear from the bottom of his heart. I wonder if this power can kill heavenly venerable darkness? Such a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. But before he could think about it, loud cheers came from outside. Then, Wang Bai, dressed in white, walked into the demon ceiling tower like a floating god of war. He left behind the powerful, dignified, and solemn back view of countless young martial artists. However, after walking into the demon ceiling tower, Wang Bai immediately revealed his true colors. He waved his hand with a wretched smile and said, "Ah, handsome people are really popular. I just waved my hand lightly and destroyed a group of skeleton soldiers. I actually received the fanatical worship of so many people. What should I do? It's so annoying." Yi Fei came back to his senses and said with a solemn expression, "Wang Bai, I accidentally refined the origin source core. It's not your fault. When a woman goes crazy, it's really scary. Besides, it's better for you to refine it than for that crazy woman to refine it or self-destruct it." Wang Bai also had a lingering fear. Although he was fighting outside, he had been paying attention to the situation inside the demon ceiling tower. Yi Fei shook his head gloomily and said, "I'm not concerned about this. I'm just worried that refining the origin source core will have a bad effect on the Tianwu continent." Wang Bai was stunned when he heard this. Then, he seriously combed his 4 eyebrows and explained, "Let me put it this way. The Tianwu continent is the ancestor dragon's physical body. The origin source core is the ancestor dragon's soul. You refined the heart of origin, which is equivalent to becoming the ancestral dragon's soul. As long as you don't die, the martial continent will continue to absorb the power of the universe and continuously produce the heavenly venerate's origin source and all kinds of spiritual energy. Of course, if you are strong enough, you can also force out the refined origin source core and return it to this continent." Wang Bai explained in detail. Yi Fei also let out a long sigh of relief. Then, the two of them looked at each other and smiled, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. "Don't worship me. I've always been a very low-key person." Wang Bai walked out in a flashy manner. Facing the tens of thousands of young martial artists outside, he revealed what he thought was the most handsome and mighty smile. The martial artists outside all looked at Wang Bai in bafflement. What's wrong with this person? He should be Emperor Ye's follower, right? Of course. Which master doesn't have a servant come out first to shout when he goes out? Look, Emperor Yi has come out. It's really Emperor Yi, our real martial sacred courtyard's strongest holy son. Our Tianwu continent's strongest human emperor. Emperor Yi, I love you so much. A bold empress actually confessed her love to Yi Fei in public. Just as he walked out of the demon ceiling tower, Yi Fei was extremely embarrassed. Wang Bai's dignified smile also completely froze. Even his 4 eyebrows were stiff as iron. Only then did he understand that the one who everyone cheered for just now was not him, the handsome Wang Bai. It was Yi Fei who had killed his way into the demon ceiling tower. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.